There's those few seconds of delay that
Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.
Welcome to another episode of DJs and Beers.
Cheers.
Everyone. The band is back together again. Look at this.
I'm skipping the question of what
Yeah.
I'm skipping the question of what episode it is. Cheers.
29.
Cheers.
Huh?
29. Fucking 29.
The question.
When's the last time we were all together?
Like 3 weeks ago.
Probably longer.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, usually someone's missing. Time we're back with
What did you guys
no guest.
What did you guys have for dinner tonight? Well, Matt and
Breakfast, you mean, for us?
I had oatmeal.
I had homemade cannelloni from Evo. It's amazing.
Homemade what?
Cannelloni.
Okay. Pasta. I had pasta as well. Yeah, homemade, leftover. 2 days old, but tasted amazing still.
This was a day old, so no, it was amazing. Very good. So thanks,
I had
Evo.
spicy battered mushrooms in a dip and a burger.
Nice.
Ooh, Beyond Burger.
No, it was. I've ordered that. It was some sort of different burger. It was good. We have that new vegan place around the corner here, so I had to test it. It was pretty good. Justin, we hear you.
Justin, we hear you.
Justin, we hear you.
Justin's in the show.
Justin, you're in the show. By the way, who wonders who's Justin? Justin is our producer in the background.
Oh, he just muted himself.
Okay.
Oh, he did.
Well, so Ali, you said you had leftovers?
Yeah, I made a bolognese a few days ago. I've basically been, because they closed all bars and restaurants here. I mean, they still do, not all restaurants, but like many who are equipped to are still doing takeout. But I kind of have just been a homebody and cooking at home and, inviting different friends to come over. And last night I had Gaetano Parisio and his girlfriend over.
Nice.
And I'm a little, go ahead.
I was going to say, is it like a partial lockdown now, or is it what's the status? What's going on?
It's not the lockdown that they had in March and April, which was full lockdown, and you had to have a reason to go out. Either supermarket or pharmacy, and it was being enforced in the streets by police and like military and stuff. Right now, it's just closing the bars and restaurants, which nobody sees the point in that.
So, I mean, are they open in the daytime as they would be for lunch and like these, are they
No, I mean, it's fully shut for 15 days and they might extend it. But the funny thing is you'll walk by like a gym or a yoga studio and it's like full.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, again, they're punishing, these industries that have a big social component
alcohol
to them.
And I mean, the thing is, Barcelona is such a social city. I mean, it survives off that, right? I mean,
it's really sad to see it. I mean, there's no tourists here. It just feels like the life has been sucked out of the city, and everyone's really, it's not even like, angry. Everyone just seems down about the situation. And it's hard for me, having come here all these years and having fallen in love with the city, and now I'm living here. It's hard to see the city like this. It was interesting because in my neighborhood for the last week and a half, they were filming this movie with Antonio Banderas and Mark Wahlberg and Penelope Cruz and stuff. So my whole neighborhood there was a lot of people just popping over to see what was being filmed.
Do you know what it is by chance?
I can't remember the name of I think they shot some scenes in Berlin before they came to Barcelona.
Oh, interesting.
But I guess it's one of those international espionage kind of films.
Yeah. Once Upon a Time in Spain.
Once Upon a Time.
It's not Ted 3 then.
It was interesting because they had a rapid test testing kind of area, like a little tent, and it was clearly labeled rapid COVID test, where I guess they were every day testing the cast and crew because obviously no one's wearing masks, who are performing in the film.
Yeah,
we've had a film crew filming in our building downstairs, and they're filming in I think it's a German series. I'm not sure the name of the program, but basically the lead actor yesterday was diagnosed with COVID, so the whole production stopped. I mean, there's literally a whole street is full of trucks, the catering, everything, and it's all ground to a halt. So Eva's been tested. She's negative. Like everyone in the building's been tested, blah blah blah. So
Did you get tested?
I didn't get tested because I haven't seen my neighbor, but Eva was down with my neighbor where they're filming. So I thought if she comes up, I mean, I haven't seen anyone, so I haven't been out. So,
but those rapid tests, they can't be very accurate, because just like a couple of days ago, Joe Rogan just said that one of his crew got COVID, and they do those tests all the time. And he like canceled the whole week of podcasts on the Joe Rogan show. Wow. And they do those rapid tests all the time. So,
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, they're now doing these in the UK at the airports, where, I mean, I guess it's for people who need to travel to destinations like Japan, where you need to, I guess it's the same as if you're traveling from the States to Europe, you need to be negative. But I'm not even sure if it actually works. I mean, what happens after you get the test? Where do you go? Are you completely isolated till you get on the plane?
Yeah.
How does it work?
I mean, like Ali, you did that.
Huh?
You did that, right? You had to take a test before you're going to Europe.
Well, I mean, I didn't have to. It wasn't required, but I took it just to be able to present that to immigration if there was any doubt.
So it's not required for Americans going to Europe?
Say again?
It's not required for Americans going to Europe?
No, it's not required.
Oh, wow.
I mean, certain airlines, maybe. I remember talking to Satoshi Tomi, and he was trying to get to Paris to reunite with his wife. And I think Air France at the time had required it, like within a certain number of days before he was traveling. But for me, it wasn't required. I did it. It helped. In addition to all the other documents that I presented. And then I took one before I went to Sardinia because I was told I had to, but nobody checked. We just landed like it was, pre kind of COVID. And then I took one before I went to Romania just because I heard it would help. And
did you get to play there at all, Ali, in the end? I mean, you were there for quite a few days.
We found out at the airport before we were about to board that the gig was canceled, but our flight was, flights were booked and hotel was booked, and we were seeing friends spending 3 days there. So we just decided to go, and they shut down the city or all the bars and restaurants here. And we just decided to go and hang out, see our friends and catch up. But in the end, we did we had a villa, and my tour manager and I, we cooked for everybody, and then we had a little party. So,
yeah.
Definitely have a much more active social life than I do, man. We've been in complete solitude. Yeah. I haven't seen anybody at all this whole year.
Yeah.
Except for maybe David. I think David's the only person that I've seen.
Yeah, we've gotten some food.
Yeah.
About it.
You guys have gone out to just sit across from each other in a restaurant and shoot the shit, or?
Yeah, we went out for sushi a few times, and I think we even had a few barbecues at the house.
Yeah, that's right. I had a couple barbecues at the house with 2 other friends, just real small circle.
It's just been this little tiny bubble of just the 4 of us actually this whole year.
Yeah. Very small circle.
Yeah, I became friends with the guy who sells me beer.
Well, what's up with all that beer you got on that you posted on Instagram?
On. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I have to say thanks really to this absolutely amazing crew that is the Alone Together community somehow. They always get together. There's some really great people in Italy, some Germans, and they got together and they were just thinking they wanted to give me a nice gift, and then I got a message on Twitter that you should go by Braustil, which is the place where I always get my beer. And they organized that I got a big case of cans, like totally different cans, like IPAs and everything, and a whole case of bottles, like with different stuff that I usually drink, because the guy at Braustil knows what I'm getting there all the time. So they put together, and thank you so much, guys. That's
awesome.
So awesome.
Well, cheers.
Absolutely awesome. It's so heartwarming, really, and to see.
By the way, if anyone ever wants to send me beer, you can send me beer as well. I accept it as a nice.
So, Chris, this was the shop that did this, or a community of your fans who got together and went to the shop and said, "Hey, we want to put together like a bouquet of beer."
No, the community that follows my streams, and they got in touch with the beer store and asked them if he could put together like a big package for me, and obviously paid him. And then I went there today, and he was already smiling at me. He's like, "You got some really nice fans," and I'm like, "Yeah."
That's amazing.
And, it's so sweet. I mean, these are the gestures that really lift your spirits. So thanks again. It's like, especially in those times here, where you, just like as Mo said, you spend most of the time alone if you're living alone, like I do, like David does, like Ali does, or you're with your family, and you probably want to be a little bit more alone, and you can't. and I mean, I don't mind being alone, to be honest, but and I really enjoy my time here. So having a little bit more beer by these great people is definitely a helpful thing. It's so nice.
Chris,
but talking about it, I need to get another one. Sorry, I need to get another one. I already started with it before the show, so sorry, I'm gonna quickly get another one, right?
All good.
What am I drinking? What are you guys drinking, by the way?
Red wine.
Rebel lager. I'm gonna probably get a different.
Empty, actually.
I'm actually just having my typical English breakfast since I just woke up. So
Nice.
Ichiban. I love that beer.
Yeah.
I used Globo for the first time tonight, just because I didn't have time to venture out and buy beer, and I just decided to order and see how long it takes, and it took like 15 minutes. I ordered the app, and the guy delivered it like a 6-pack.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fall in love lager.
Yeah. So for anyone who's curious about that, I posted on my Instagram today and on my Facebook, and thanked everyone in person. So that's for you guys. So tasty. So
And Chris, how was the your masterclass this week, or your?
Sorry, I just unplugged my headphones. You were asking about the masterclass?
Yeah, the thing you did for Twitch and Beatport. How did it go? How did it go?
I'm not sure if you can call it masterclass, but it was some sort of class. Actually, it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. And I've realized again and again that I do really need deadlines in order to do shit. And because I knew that Tuesday is going to be the day where I agreed with Beatport on their Twitch channel to do some sort of, they call it production stream, but no one at Beatport kind of exactly told me what to do, other than it's called production stream.
Okay.
So am I distorting, by the way, if I'm so close to the mic and kissing it all the time?
No, it sounds great.
Yeah, great.
You sound great.
I'm still trying to sound as good as Mo, but
Stop, dude.
It is so hard. And so because I had this deadline, I was like last week thinking, I need to set this all up here a little bit more convenient for me to use, and just not throwing things around, clean up my room behind me a little bit, because as you remember last week, I switched sides on the room. So always behind me was always a huge mess, which you couldn't see because the computer was there. And so I set everything up over the weekend. I just completely uncabled everything, which was it's fun. Don't you think it's fun if you totally uncable, decable? What is the English expression?
No,
I like the word uncable. So I don't think it's a word, but it sounds cool. So let's make it a word.
Yeah, uncabling your studio and then just sitting here with loads of cables around your neck and everything, and you're just like, okay, where do I put this? Where do I put this? And because this is an improvised space, I can move things around. So I took this table on my side and hooked everything up completely fresh, and started work around and get my head around some stuff so I wouldn't be looking too stupid, by where's the kick drum again? And then on Sunday night, I decided to do a test stream, and I just opened YouTube. Like I was thinking, like if I do a test stream, I'll do it on my YouTube channel and just spontaneously see who's tuning in, who's like sitting Sunday night in front of his computer, and then this thing pops up with your subscribers, and it's like this guy's going live, and everybody's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just testing stuff." And I realized it was like literally nothing was working. Like my sync completely went out of control. Every time I hit play, the for some reason the 909 would completely go into different direction than anything else. And it was a fun test, but it was again a proof that that when the test run is going really bad, it's a good sign that maybe the real thing is doing better. And so I knew what the problems were, and then I sorted them out on Monday. And then on Monday night, I was sitting here and starting to, just got into my stuff and did some stuff. And then I thought, yeah, okay, maybe that's how I do it. I came across, hold on, I gotta find that. Going through my records. Hold on, sorry. It's still not all that like perfectly laid out here. I came across my old records, and I remembered. I almost completely forgot that I released two Stigmata records. Yeah, I released two Stigmata records with only loops on them. So there's like 22 loops on this one, 22 loops on the other one.
I have that record.
You have that?
Yeah.
Are they locked grooves?
They're locked grooves. Yeah.
Locked grooves. Yeah.
And and then I thought, you know what? This is the good start. I'm going to sample the grooves, the loops. I'm going to put the best sounds of all these grooves on my MC707 that I have here, and then we take it from there, and we just play around with the samples of those grooves, and then we'll take it from there. I'll add some 101, some 303 bass line. I have the Electron analog rhythm here. I have some fancy electric harmonics. Paddles here, basically. It's not paddles, but it's like
so, Chris, do you think Chris, do you think you're in a much better position working wise now, away from touring? I mean, for me, I'm like, my studio's in such a better place because I'm actually here and like
so much better.
Yeah,
I start to understand things suddenly.
It all makes sense now.
It's just like, this is how it works.
So how did you make? I mean, when you were with your last album, did you make this on the road? How did you make it then? Was it made there? Was it or
no? You have to make no. This is not my studio. I used to have a studio. Like Mo knows it. He was there a lot of times in that studio.
It was a beautiful studio too.
Oh yeah, it was great. And then we had to move out 2 years ago, and I put everything in storage, and I kept some stuff here. But in the meantime, I went back to my storage, got my speakers out, so I have them downstairs for the streaming stuff. But I have, I don't have enough room, and downstairs it was a better room for streaming stuff, since it looks pretty cool because it's a construction place, a site essentially, and so. When it came, you have to make a difference between what I'm doing for the album or for the albums for Mute, because my approach for Mute was, or not for Mute actually, in 2015, or let's go back into 2014. I remember, I can go way back in time, because we have no guest. We can talk all a little bit.
Tell a story.
Yeah, so let's tell a story. I was in LA in 2014 in January. I remember, Mo, right?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. I was there every January, I guess. And then we were driving around, and then I was a little frustrated of where things were with the label CLR, You know, I was just like, I didn't know where to take it, didn't know what to do. And I really wanted to have more time for myself to make music again and not really worry about label work. Matt, I have no fucking clue how you do it, because you have the biggest, best label out there right now. If I can quickly jump in there, you just did a post I saw about the release that you had this week.
It comes out tomorrow.
Comes out tomorrow. Live Your Life.
Yeah.
And I think it's the track of the year for me. Seriously, this is like everybody's got to go and get that track. And I wanted to write this in the comments on Instagram, and you disabled the comments. Why did you disable the comments in the Instagram post? Yeah,
I haven't done it intentionally. So
I didn't even know you can. I didn't even know you can disable comments.
Yeah, you can.
Because you was thinking that some sort of magazine made it a track of the week, and I was like, I don't agree. It's the track of the year, dude.
Right,
seriously, it's such a huge track.
Did you send that to us?
No, he didn't.
How do you? I mean, I don't even know how I did that, so I'll have to have a look. But yeah, no, you're 100% right. I mean, luckily I've got Leon Oki, who used to work for Classic. He manages a lot of labels, and without him, I wouldn't be able to do any of it. I mean, he literally looks after everything.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured you need some help because it's so big what you're doing there. I mean, you have so many releases. You're dealing with so many artists, high-profile artists. I mean, Matt's label is just like, if you look back in time, how many artists did you break? You know, you broke
a lot. Names
that we don't want to mention. Some of them we want to mention. Some of them.
How old is the label now?
The label will be 14 years next year.
Wow.
No, so yeah, no, 15 years. Sorry, 15. It's 2006. Wow. So 15 years of records next year. So yeah, wow. And I mean it's
a good name too. I like the name.
And it seems like an eternity, really. But as I'm sure Chris knows, once you start releasing, I mean, Trevor Jackson, I think I mentioned this before. I think I was playing at Weekend. I think it was winter 2005. I was thinking about starting the label. And he said to me, if you start records or you start a label, don't sign any other artist, only release your own music. And obviously I didn't listen to him. So
yeah. Why do you think he said that?
I second that.
Well, I mean, I think he you know, from his experience with running Output and all the labels he's been into, of course, he's an artist in his own right, you know, an accomplished artist, a prolific artist, graphic designer. And if you look at artists like Robert Hood, I mean, of course, he's done things for records, but a lot of M-Plant, it's only him. And same with like Mahogany, with Moody Man, it's just him, you know, and there's a lot to be said for just, you know, it depends. I'm a music fan. I love music. So I'm always just gimme. Like, you know, I'm the kid in the candy shop. I just want to absorb and of course, help other people as well. Get a foot in the door and give them the chance, you know, maybe that I didn't have, you know. So,
which is an amazing thing, but it also puts you in the position that you have quite some responsibility over these artists, and you want to live up to those responsibilities. You know, they give you their heart. You know, like especially if someone does an album. I mean, in an album, there's so much work going into an album. And you want to have the best possible way to release it. So you have a lot of responsibility. And I mean, I love to work with all these artists that I had on my label. It was a great time. But I remember that I had a long talk with Mo on that drive in January 2014. And
I remember
was just like, yeah, I can't, you know, dude, we drove up these canyons. You remember?
Yeah.
We had the baseball bat in the back.
Yeah, all those canyons burned down just
I know,
for reference.
Oh, God. And I was kind of a little, it was too much pressure for me at that time to live up to all these responsibilities. And I wanted to have more time to work on my music again, because it took away from my music, because I did everything myself on the label, you know. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe I should have of course I had help, but I wanted to do everything myself. I'm such a control freak, you know, even down to the mix downs. Like it was pretty insane and I wanted to have more time. And then I decided I'm going to freeze the label. And maybe I'll unfreeze it soon. But I opened time for me to work on music. And because I always wanted to do something like different than techno as well, but I knew I wouldn't be capable of it because I'm not a musician. I got in touch with the amazing Ralf Hildenbeutel, who you all know, who's part of the early Sound of Frankfurt, who was like one of the biggest producers around in the 90s here, doing all the stuff for IQ and Hard House, producing Sven Väth. I think his first 3 albums were produced by Ralf. He's just an amazing producer, and he works a lot on movie scores right now, television series and everything. And I got in touch with him in 2015, asking him like, dude, I really would love to do some more musical stuff, but I know I'm not capable of it. So I really need to collaborate and I need help. And he was like, all right, let's sit together in the studio. And then we started doing this. So I was basically, at that time, obviously, I still had my studio, but we did the bulk of that kind of work. So this is why I make a difference between that album music and my techno music. My techno music I'm doing here or in my old studio, but the work that I did was supposed to be different, and I did it over in his studio, which is just literally a kilometer away. And that's where I was working on that album. And then it turned out that Daniel Miller was always kind of like to him here and there. And then at some point I was like, Daniel, I got some different kind of music. Do you want to listen to it? And it ultimately, it turned out to be the Burn Slow album on Mute Records, which I still have to pinch myself every day, right? Like, oh my God, that has really worked out. And now I'm almost done with the second album, which again I did with Ralf and mostly in his studio, or actually only in his studio. We actually have the last mixdown session tomorrow online. So wow. We're still mixing on it, because I sent my last mixes over where I felt like they're done, and Daniel was listening to them like, nah, they're not done. nah. And tomorrow we actually have a mixdown session with him together, so that's going to be great. And I'm already.
Have you ever had? Did Daniel ever give you any advice that you felt like maybe he was wrong and you were right, or were you always?
No. It's funny.
Always
I just had
listening to his, his feedback.
Always. I don't know, guys out there, if you don't know Daniel Miller, Google him. It's just, he's like, he's the wisdom in person when it comes to music for our generation, really. Running the label Mute since 40 years now. And he kind of has his way. And it's funny, I was just speaking to someone at Mute yesterday for a lengthy period of time, talking about like the artwork and everything. And I was telling him, it's like, I feel sorry for those artists who work with Daniel who do not really listen to him, because he's got such a big well of wisdom and knowledge that he doesn't push in your face. He doesn't. He would never be like, you have to do it that way. It's more like subtle. It's more like, listening to it, I think like it's a little muddy there. Maybe you want to do this. And maybe there's some artists who are like, oh yeah, I don't think so. But I'm always like, what? What did you say? What's going on? And like the last mixdowns, honestly, I can be open about this. The last mixdowns I sent him where I thought these are the final mixdowns. I remember on this show, I was almost wanted to celebrate one time, like I'm done with the mixes. You remember that? Yeah. If I listened to, he came back to me judging these mixes. We went through track and track and track, and he was saying like, what is wrong with each track? And I'm like, okay. Good to know. We went back to the studio with Ralf and sitting down, mixing it under the new advice of Daniel, basically. And already in the first half an hour, I was sitting there like, fuck, that's what he means. Now I get it. And it was literally, that was the experience with each track. And it got so far that I started to be ashamed that I actually did send him the first batch of mixes. Because if I compare them now to where we're at now, it's a world of difference. It's just so much better. But maybe it's also because I'm not really used to working with vocals so much, and also, I mean, Ralf is really used to work with vocals. I'm not so much used to work with vocals. I mean, my mixdowns usually were like, let's get the kick drum big and the rest will follow. It's not really how it works with this kind of music, and I had to get my head around this. And also, I have to say, Daniel is actually kind of a co-producer on this album now, because he came over to Frankfurt last year, December, and we had 3 days in the studio together, and we were working through all tracks again. So he's really involved in that. But it was an extremely exciting learning process about learning all about that, and I'll see what the outcome is for that tomorrow. I mean, maybe I can celebrate that next week, that we're finally done with these mixdowns. It's a lengthy process because it happens next to it, to everything else what's happening, but it's a fun process too.
Hey Chris, but when you say he was giving you suggestions, does he give like technical suggestions on how to fix your mix, or is it more of what he feels needs to be more upfront or something like that?
Yeah, it's more what he feels. It and it comes across right subtly. It's more like, oh, when you have a vocal in your track, it should be bold, should it? Like, you don't want to bury it somewhere. And I'm like, yeah, right. Why did I bury that, or bury that sound? Like these kind of advice. Get the bold sounds out. Put everything a little bit more in the back that you don't really need in that moment to get a little bit more dynamics going. It's like, it's not in a technical way, it's more like in a vibe way, and you kind of have to try to figure out what he really means.
Yeah.
And that's why we do the mix session tomorrow all together, because we think we are at a point where we just talk about little details, and our goal is that after like 3-4 hours, we're all going to pop a bottle of wine, and we're all going to be like, yeah, we're done. Until Monday, and everybody listens to it again and thinks like, oh, maybe we should change that. I should change that. But that's a whole different thing.
What about other types of creative direction? Like, Chris, I think this song needs a vocal, or the vocal you've done for this song is not very good. Let's find another singer. Or this song is not very good. I don't think it should be on the album, or like things of that nature. How involved is he in that part of the creative process?
Very much, very, very much. But luckily, I have to say, he didn't reject any tracks, and he didn't reject any vocal decision I made so far. Or if he didn't. Like, actually, this album will have 6 tracks with vocals, 4 tracks are instrumentals. And there's even, I would say, 3 tracks where people are singing. That's new.
Shame on you.
Like, actually singing. And so far, I think I've been really lucky with the vocalists too, that, I mean, there were suggested also, I chose them, but I had a list of suggestions from him. So it came from his side anyways already, so it's such an amazing process. I've learned so much during that time.
I'm sure he knows everyone, like as far as singers and stuff, a lot of interesting left field alternative.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Artists. Like, was there anybody that he suggested, like from a well-known band or something, or well-known singer, or was there anybody that you wanted to target that you asked him to kind of reach out to on your behalf?
I'm not sure if I'm revealing too much here right now, but I could tell you some stories. Shall I tell you some stories?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
I don't want to push my story here all the time on that. One vocalist on the album is Cold Specs. Cold Specs, Ladan. You know Cold Specs?
Yeah.
She's worked with Moby a lot. Like, there's a lot of Moby tracks featuring Cold Specs, really, really cool tracks. And that was a suggestion of Daniel. It was like, let's get in touch with her. I think she would fit on that track really well. And bam, it was perfect. I can actually reveal the vocalist. Polly Scattergood is back. She was on the last album too. She's got such an amazing voice. You don't even have to treat that voice. You just put it in the mix and it's there. It's amazing. Miles Cooper Seaton. He was Matt, who's just left the building. He remixed the Card House track with the Miles Cooper Seaton vocal on it. And Miles Cooper Seaton is back, and he's living in LA right now. And his lyrics he wrote his lyrics during the fires. And it's absolutely, like, it's mind-blowing what he wrote, Red Horizons, seeing fires from the hill, a million little fires. It's just like, wow, it's so in the moment. It's so here. And then I have a really amazing vocalist from England. His name is Tom Adams. He's not that well known yet, but I tell you, he will be. He's just a really fantastic vocalist. And a girl named Maria from a band called Sink Ya Teeth is on there as well. Sink Ya Teeth is more like I would almost say between electronic and alternative band, two-girl band, and she's the singer. And she's done a fantastic job. But a funny story is, which I can reveal here, I'm not sure if I even should. I had this one track which I did with Ralph, and I was just like, you know, I'm a huge fan of Peter Gabriel.
Me too.
Oh my God. I'm just like, you know, especially his early works, Pico and the album Melt, the album Cars. And I this is kind of the sound that I wanted to achieve also with this kind of this a burn slow sound and with the sound now. And I made this track with Ralph, which is just like, it was just like, I could hear Peter Gabriel singing on that track. I just like, it was just like, ugh. And I was starting to really, really get on Daniel's nerves. It's like, Daniel, do you know Peter Gabriel? You know him? And he's like, oh my God, because last time I contacted Gary Newman, for the last album, and I was able to contact Gary Newman because of Aid Fenton. You guys know Aid Fenton?
Yeah, of course.
Remember him? Yeah. And Aid Fenton used to run a label called Advanced Audio back in the times at Prime Distribution back in 99, 2000. So I contacted Aid because he was his producer manager. Aid is also the manager of Dave Clark, I believe. You wanted to know that.
Why does his name keep popping up?
And anyway, so I got in touch with Aid, and Aid got in touch with Gary Newman, which I was like, I fainted on my chair when I heard, oh yeah, Gary's up for collaborating with you. And I was like, you know, I wrote some lyrics. Could you give them to Gary Newman, please? And maybe he wants to do them. And he was like, oh, these are great lyrics. I'm going to read them down. And within a week, I had his vocals for the last album. And I was like, whoa. So I was like, maybe I should go a little bolder even. And I was like,
I wanted to ask you, Chris, like with this whole thing, this whole project. I mean, and I guess maybe this is some advice for maybe young producers. Is how do you think the people that have been following you with your, you know, your techno career and your DJ career, will do you think that they follow you with this because they love you, or do you think this does this divide people? Like, why is Chris doing this? You know, I mean, what's your view on this?
It's a very, very good question. And I have to say, I did one mistake when I released the Burn Slow album. I deliberately did not do any club mixes when I released the album. And I should have done. But I was sitting there thinking to myself, you know, this is a different kind of music. I want to keep it separate.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Cheers. This is different kind of music. I want to keep that separate, and I deliberately don't want to have any club mixes. And that was not a good idea, because it's like, you know, I should have included the techno fans. I should have I should have brought them on board, and I should have like give them sort of an entrance key to maybe listen to the album. So the album, if a fan of, like a techno fan of mine was listening to the album, he probably was like, huh? Like, what? I didn't get any negative response. It was more or less like, nah, you know, I'll put it away. Don't worry about it. It's something else, you know?
See, I fail to fully understand that whole concept of why techno people can't listen to an album that's not fully for the dance floor. I don't feel like people need to cater to them either. I mean, I think not catering to them also pushes them to be a little bit more open-minded to the fact that I like to see my favorite DJs and my favorite producers when they make an album. I like to see how diverse they can be in an album. I don't want an album to be delivered that's just another, you know, double pack 8 tracks of dance floor music. I want to see what people can do outside of what I already know them for, you know?
But do you feel like you're dismissed if you try to do anything other than what you do, like in the clubs? Like, do you feel like, what's the point in making an album that nobody
that's why
really
I mean, if you look at like someone like Carl Craig, I mean, I guess that's why he's had so many different aliases over the years. I mean, it's just because otherwise it does become confusing. And he's, you know, maybe that's why someone like him, it enables you by having this mask, you know. But with like Chris, and you're like an established, like, you know, techno producer to also techno DJ, and to release something that's not, maybe if someone's following you on Spotify and you don't release what they're expecting, then of course, people are like, you know, why aren't you playing this, Chris? Or why aren't you, it's the same with me. Why don't you play Grindhouse every set? Oh, with Josh Wink, why aren't you playing? With Josh Wink, why aren't you playing High State of Consciousness? I came here to hear that. You know,
but there's an argument to be made that maybe we should constantly always be delivering what people aren't. I mean,
but we're not
something different than what's not expected.
Yeah, we're not a jukebox, are we? We're not a juke. I mean, I don't think DJs are jukebox.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
some people do think that.
And that's why, you know, Chris should be able to do whatever he wants.
But you know, I mean, it's an important thing to mention that I didn't abandon my techno way. You know, at the same time, I did techno remixes, I did techno releases at the same time. That was just, let's say, an additional project or an additional thing that I wanted to do. I think
your album was fully within the realm of your sound as an artist, your overall sound. I don't think it was.
If you want to see overall, of course, it's dark. It's kind of like trippy and dark. Yeah, you could see it that way. But obviously, it's not 130 BPM 4 to the floor. You know. And maybe some people are really thinking that way. So sorry, David. Well,
so you guys, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted. I'm not sure if I should really finish that story, but should I continue that story with Peter Gabriel?
Yeah, please.
Please. If it's got a good ending,
it's better deliver.
Does it have a good ending?
It kind of has, yeah. So I was annoying Daniel, like, Daniel, please, could you, like, do you have any contact to Peter Gabriel? Because honestly, I have this instrumental track, and I swear by my life, if Peter Gabriel listens to this, he will get it. He will say like, oh yeah. And I was like, I just need, you know, the Real World Studios. You all know them.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, I'm gonna go over to England, and I'm gonna get a USB stick, and I'm gonna bring a tent, and I'm gonna set it up right outside the Real World Studios, and I'm just gonna.
I was so jealous. Did you guys see Paul Wolford?
Yeah, I think.
I saw that too. Yeah.
I think that's his studio of choice.
Yeah. So jealous. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just like, I'm going to sit outside these gates and I just wait until the master drives through, and I'm just going to jump in front of the car. It's like, listen to this, please. So I bugged Daniel. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to tell that story, but you know, what the hell. So Daniel actually got in touch with him, because he said like, yeah, you know, in the 90s, we were skiing one time together. Like, imagine Daniel Miller and Peter Gabriel on a ski slope together in the 90s. How much fun. That's great. That's great. And I'm like, great. And so he actually did send him an email, and he did send him this track. And there came an email back from Peter Gabriel saying, hey, I really like Chris Liebing's track. Wow. I have that email.
Wow.
And that was it?
Fainted.
And that's as far as it got?
That's as far as it got.
Wow.
But aren't you glad
the next step was I got the number of his engineer, and there was a time set up that I should have a call with his engineer, and I should explain what the plan is with this track and what I was expecting Peter Gabriel to do. And so his engineer and I went on the phone call together, and his engineer was like, yeah, so what is this? And I'm like, and after 10 minutes, the engineer, yeah, I think I got it. All right, speak to you soon. Bye. And he hung up, and that was it. I've never heard of them again.
Aren't you glad you did that? Do you feel...
I'm extremely glad I did that. Yeah. Peter Gabriel once in his life mentioned my name. That's all. I can go now.
Yeah,
that's it.
I don't know if you guys have seen, but he's just released this Live in Athens album from I think it's from 80. It was just when the So album came out, and if you watch this, you can watch the performance and thing on YouTube. But the band is so tight. It literally sounds like they're in the studio. It sounds like they're in the studio.
I mean, this band is playing together since 30 years, I think. He's got the same musicians since 30 years. It's insane. It's a family.
Yeah. And Peter Gabriel, I don't know if you guys follow his ambient works,
of course.
His film soundtracks. Like, he made an album for a Spanish magazine called Matador, like a big kind of art lifestyle magazine that's like that big. And the issue had Ferran Adria from El Bulli with no shirt on the cover, like one of the most incredible photographs. And, I got it for Ferran being on the cover. And as soon as I turned the, cover page over, there was a special Peter Gabriel ambient album.
Wow.
Inside. that you can't find anywhere else.
Wow.
And it's to this day it's got like 5 songs, I think. It's one of the best, collection of ambient songs I own.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
I mean, I really loved the soundtrack he did for Birdie. Is amazing.
For Birdie, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah. It's really good. And then
but
of course
a lot of that was pulled from his other albums like Security.
Yeah. And then of course Last Temptation of Christ was ridiculous. I mean, and that was the album I think that was sampled by Future Sound of London. Literally everyone in the early 90s sampled that album.
Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible, I think even underrated artist Peter Gabriel is. Nobody talks about him like people would talk about Michael Jackson, David Bowie, but he's way exactly up there, like those people. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
I think.
Yeah. I've been listening.
So that was my story.
I mean, I just posted this thing on because this TikTok video of this dude on I don't know if he was on a scooter or whatever, like drinking.
Fleetwood Mac Dreamer.
Cranberry, yeah. And then it just made me think of like when we collaborated with Stevie Nicks and how that whole thing came about. I don't know if I talked about it on the show.
Tell us that story, please.
Well, like I was going out with a girl at the time and we were working, Sharam and I were working on our second album, and I was going out with this girl who was a singer and she really wanted to be on the album, but Sharam had found this like singer who was playing, her own songs in a cafe, just her and piano. And she had a great voice, and we decided to work with her almost exclusively for that album. So my girlfriend at the time came to me with the idea that we should cover Fleetwood Mac's Dreams. And I thought it was a great idea after she started kind of singing it to me. And I went into the studio and recorded it with her and my engineer, Matt, and it sounded amazing. And it was one of those situations where everything just kind of flowed in the studio, and it felt really effortless, and it was done in like 2 days. Then I played it for Sharam, expecting him to like, freak out. And he did. He had a great reaction to it, but he said, but we can't have her sing on it because we have this other singer that we're using for the album. So then I had to go to my girlfriend who brought the idea to me, whose voice I recorded, and tell her, thank you for this great gift. Right. But unfortunately I can't use we can't use your voice on. And I was really pissed off about it. And it affected my relationship with her. So then, some time had passed after we got our singer to re-vocal my backing track, which also sounded good, but my preference was for the first version. And then I kind of felt like, I needed to have the last word here. And I reached out to our lawyer who was kind of managing us at the time. And I said, hey, wait a minute. What about maybe reaching out to Fleetwood Mac or Stevie Nicks and seeing how they feel about this and whether she would want to kind of do a revocal. And he did that. And I don't even think I told Sharam that I was going to do that, but he did that. And then they came back. Stevie Nicks' people came back and also Stevie. And she was so into it that she's like, it's incredible. Yes, yes, yes. Can you come to LA this weekend? And I have the studio that I'm working out of right now for some of my solo stuff. And we can spend 2 days and you can record my vocal. And that was like, I felt so vindicated. And then just to be in the studio for 2 days with Stevie Nicks, like around the clock, and hearing all the old Fleetwood Mac stories and just being in her presence. And,
wow.
I had to pinch myself the whole time, like, directing Stevie Nicks to re-sing one of the greatest songs that Fleetwood Mac is known for, and trying to do it justice. It was so much pressure, but it was the kind of pressure that you want to deliberately walk into and immerse yourself in. And it was such a wonderful journey looking back, from the spark of that initial idea from my ex-girlfriend at the time, to then Stevie doing it. And had I not pushed, going back to what you were saying about like urging Daniel to reach out to Peter Gabriel, it's sometimes, if you feel compelled to do something like that, as crazy as it sounds, you know, why not? Why have that regret for the rest of your life that you never followed through with that idea? So
Yeah.
for me, that was just, you know, you
so
talking
you
about
released,
this kind of reminded me of that.
yeah. Did you release that in the end? Was that a release, Deep Dish with Stevie Nicks?
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah, it
Wow.
was huge. And then she loved it so much that she put it on her greatest hits solo album, which
Wow.
included some Fleetwood Mac songs, and she was performing it as an encore, like our version. So they asked for the parts and everything. She was doing it as an encore on all her live shows. I think she
Sweet.
still is if she's touring solo. So for me, it was like, wow,
Sweet.
crazy.
I think we should continue with these famous people stories.
I-
Mo, I'm sure.
Mo has a funny Stevie Nicks story.
Mo, I'm sure you have some stories, right?
I've got stories for days, man.
Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna get another beer. You go ahead.
I don't even know
We
where to
should do an
begin.
offshoot of DJs and Beers and just call it Stories for Days with Mo.
Are we back at the 12 hour? And we're back at the 12-hour idea?
I used to, when I finished school, the first job that I had after school was just working in recording studios. So I was basically an assistant engineer for, I don't know, for quite a while. And I worked at a fairly large recording studio in Hollywood that had some pretty large clients. And I mean, we saw the run of the mill of people come in. At Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown came in and did a session with us.
Oh.
And I actually ended up doing recording sessions with George Clinton for over 2 months, and I worked exclusively with him for several months. And that was probably one of the craziest periods of my life in the studio with those guys. And it was funny because I worked in a rather it was the guy who owned the studio was from Switzerland. His name was Gingio, and he was very conservative and not necessarily the type of person who was into drugs or anything like that. And he liked nobody was allowed to smoke in the studio. He didn't like any kind of illegal things happening in the studio. And everybody seemed to abide by the laws when he was there. But as soon as the session went in late and he clocked out and left the studio, nobody ever, sat down and listened to anything that guy wanted to say. So the craziest shit would happen. And I remember George Clinton especially had asked me and my friend Nick to engineer all the sessions they were doing because they knew that they could get away with anything under our watch, which was extremely stressful for us because we had to clean up the studios in the morning time before the managers came back in. And it was pretty crazy.
What were they trying to get away with?
Well, there was a lot of drug intake.
That's the important details, Mo. Come on.
I'll tell you this much. Maybe I'm going too far saying this, but I'll tell you this much. I remember going home one time after the session with George Clinton and them, and there was a VH1 Whatever Happened To episode that was going on that was talking about George and how much drugs they did doing their heydays and how he's clean and he's straight and he's completely sober now and getting his life together. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, 20 minutes ago, I saw him dumping out crack rocks on the table and they were totally smoking them in front of everybody. It was a funny situation. But I think one of the most epic stories for me was when I did the recording session with Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston.
Oh, wow.
They came in, this was shortly after 9/11, and they were doing like a tribute song or something like that. And we were just recording a couple verses and a chorus to, it wasn't nothing big, but it was almost like they rented out a block of time in the studio, not to be productive, but to just fucking party, and they were inviting friends. There was family members coming in out, like cousin of this person and a daughter of this neighbor or whatever. And they were coming in and everybody would bring a bottle of wine and they were just drinking and having a good time. And I started getting a little aggravated because about 6 or 7 hours had passed and we never actually really finished anything.
Hold on, Mo. Where were you sitting at that time? Like where there's a control room, you were sitting in front of the mixing desk, or how did it work?
I was sitting in front of the mixing desk, which was like this brand new Pro Tools mixing desk that had just came out. And basically they just brought in a stereo track that they were going to record vocals off of. So it was just like a stereo, without vocals on it. And they were going to track them. And we never did anything. And I felt, I was like, on one hand, I'm getting paid, so I might as well not complain. But at the second hand, I'm also wasting time, and there's other things I could have been doing at the time. And finally,
which is funny to say when you're sitting in the studio with Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston, like, I'm wasting my time here, guys.
Well, I mean, also, you know, I was like 22 or 23 years old, and I think there was other things that I'd rather be doing at that particular period. But I at some point, the session had kind of come to an end, and Bobby Brown got a phone call, and he wanted to leave the studio right away. And they packed up and they left like instantly. They completely vanished. And next thing I know, I'm cleaning up the studio, just picking up, you know, whatever cups and things that were kind of laying around. And I get a phone call from the parking lot that's downstairs beneath the building. And the guy's just screaming off the top of his head. I couldn't even make sense what he was saying. And he's like, you need to come down here now. You need to come down here now. So I ran downstairs down to the parking lot. And by the time I got there, I found a parking lot gate, like the ones that go up and down, completely destroyed and spread completely down the street. And I didn't see what had happened. And the gate operator who worked at the parking lot was telling me that, you know, I had to pay for this and this is my fault and all this shit. Apparently what happened was Bobby Brown had gone downstairs and the parking lot operator had gone on a break. And they were honking their horn because he wouldn't open the gate so they can get out. So they decided to just drive through the gate and smash the whole thing and basically wrecked a street light and created this whole freaking mess. And it started a lawsuit between the parking lot and the recording studio that I was working at, which ultimately ended up getting me fired from that studio because I apparently was supposed to be down there to help them exit and get out of the building safely, which I don't know what I would have been able to do regardless if I was there or not.
Bobby Brown, are you listening?
Anyway,
all right, more Mo. Do you have more, right?
Well, didn't you have a story about Stevie Nicks?
Not Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks story, yeah.
Who was? Well, you were staying at a place that people kept visiting. Who was that?
Oh no, that was my first apartment.
But who was it? Oh, it was Janis Joplin.
Janis Joplin.
That's right.
Wow.
The first time I had moved out of my parents' house to go to college, I had rented an apartment in Hollywood, and it wasn't actually an apartment, it was a hotel room. It was an old hotel in Hollywood, probably a dingy one, and it was basically just like what you would imagine, just a hotel room with a bathroom, and it was super small, but it was perfect for me. It was $600 a month, and it was right down the street from my school. And as I was sitting there in my apartment over a certain period of month, I realized that people used to come up and knock on my door all the time. And they would be taking pictures of my front door constantly. And I would always see, like, you know, tourists outside taking picture of the number of the door on the outside. And a few people had knocked in and said, hey, can we come inside and take pictures of your apartment? And I'm like, no, like, I didn't understand what was going on until I got curious, and I went to the front desk and I asked the lady at the front, or a friend of mine at the front desk. I was like, dude, why do people keep coming to my room and asking me to take pictures of my room? I don't get it. And he's like, oh, you don't know, man. You live in the hotel room that Janis Joplin died in.
Wow.
She died in the bathtub that in your bathroom.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just remember how many times we used to go into that bathroom and smoke blunts because we never wanted the smoke to go out into the hallways, so we always smoked in the bathroom. So yeah, Janis Joplin always there by my side.
Did you feel differently when you would go into the bathroom or did take a bath or whatever? Or
it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird for a while. You know, taking a shower was never the same, but then I just kind of got used to it and just forgot about it. But it was
she's like part of that whole club of artists that died at 27, I think, right? Exactly. Janis Joplin, yeah. Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain. Amy Winehouse,
Jim Morrison. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, at the same time that I was staying in that hotel room, the hotel room across the street from me, or the room that was across the hallway from me, the the daughter from what's that Will Smith's TV show called again? The one that he
Fresh
did.
Prince.
Yeah, I remember the oldest sister in that show. What was her name?
Oh, I don't
Will Smith's cousin. I don't know, the oldest daughter of the Banks. That actress was staying in the hotel room right across from me, which I could never understand why.
Tatiana Ali?
Yeah, I think that was her name.
She was.
I could never understand why she would be staying in that grungy hotel after doing, that TV show. She should be living in a mansion.
Wow.
She should be living in Bel Air.
Exactly, man. Hillary. Dean Paul called it out. Her name was Hillary. That was,
of course, Dean knows.
Wow. Any more famous people stories?
There's a ton, but they always kind of just like visit me over time. I mean, I did sessions with Marvin Gaye III, which is Marvin Gaye's the second son, who wasn't really much of a musical talent, but I think he was following his family's footsteps. And all of these people come with incredibly interesting stories and weird situations that had happened over the years. So I don't know. Like, they're not all coming to me right now.
Matt and David, do you have anything?
The funny thing is most of the famous artists that I've remixed, like Elton John, Paul McCartney, Kylie Minogue, I've never met them. I mean, I nearly went on tour with Paul McCartney. I went through a process of like, I met all of his management team. Basically, he was doing a tour, but it was with Cirque du Soleil. And I would have had to have worn like some costume, and they wanted to DJ. And the whole thing just sounded like really crazy. And in fact, I didn't get the job in the end. This other guy from UK, I think he was named, what's his name? Something Hellraiser. He was one of these guys who was doing like mashups at the time. It was like the mid 2000s. He got the job, but I mean, with most of these remix jobs or with major labels, I've never met the artists. So don't have any stories.
Sharam and I remember years ago, we did a remix for the Rolling Stones, and we happened to be in New York and got invited by the owner of a really hot kind of supper club called Butter. The owner was Persian, and he was a big fan of ours. So he invited us there for dinner and then drinks. And at a certain point, there was all this commotion, and we found out that Mick Jagger had come in. And, he was obviously surrounded by his own security, and then there was the club security, and whisked off to a corner. And we were sitting with the owner of Butter, and we told him the story of remixing this Rolling Stones song. So he told this bouncer to go tell Mick Jagger's people that, Deep Dish, who remixed this Rolling Stones song, are at another table nearby. And the bouncer came back with like a handwritten note from Mick Jagger saying, it's a bit crazy. Like, I think it was like, it's a bit crazy in here. Thank you so much for the great remix.
Wow.
But obviously we wanted to meet him, but it was a bit nuts inside, and they weren't able to make that happen. Or maybe he just preferred to kind of be off in his own corner. But it was a brush with greatness.
You still have that note?
Huh?
You still have that note?
I think it, the ink got smeared because it was the table was wet or something. It was really sad and we were drunk, but man, it was crazy. Mick Jagger. I'm listening to a lot of classic rock lately. I can't stop listening. I don't know if you guys heard Band of Gypsies, the Jimi Hendrix live album when he formed the new band.
Where was it recorded
live at the Fillmore?
Yeah, I did listen to that. He did the Machine Gun track on that.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, like,
it's such an incredible record.
It just made, and it was live. And when you listen to it, I mean, I've heard it many times before, but I'm listening to it again now. And I don't know what it is about that album, but it just makes you want to, it's like listening to Prince. You feel so like talentless,
Yeah, that one is especially one of the best live recordings of Jimi Hendrix I've ever heard, for sure.
Yeah.
You guys listen to a lot of albums, actually? Does it still?
Yeah.
We can get to the questions like, does it still make sense to produce an album? I mean, making an album is because you want to make an album, right? Not because you're hoping that a lot of people are listening to it. You just want to do it, right? Because it's a different kind of approach, right? I think.
I think there were some big artists that were talking about how albums are just not appreciated that much these days compared to before, where you would listen to it from the beginning to the end. Now it's all about picking like the single track and like everyone just pays attention to that one, and the rest is just like whatever. Kind of interesting.
Like, would be a good question for our audience, what they think about.
I feel like maybe the older people will be like, oh yeah, for sure it's all about albums, but the younger people might not have the.
Yeah, but isn't it a little sad for the younger people that they actually don't know what they're missing out on?
It's sad for us to feel bad for them, but they don't feel sad about it.
They don't feel bad.
True. That's
They're like, I want my track to be 2 minutes long and just be a hit.
But I mean, with Spotify though, hasn't it all become more about the albums, especially because you can only search by the artist, not by the label? So it makes it even more. No,
because if you look on Spotify and let's say you type your favorite artist's name, at the top it'll just show like the most popular song. It won't talk about it won't be albums. You have to scroll down to look for an album. It'll just be by songs, most popular songs. So I think that's how people consume their music now.
I mean, it's kind of sad, but I guess, it's a sign of the times, and this is how we've evolved. I had friends over the other day, and I put on, because I have a Thorns turntable here, and I'm just buying albums, like 180 gram weighted reissues of classic albums. And I'm putting on the first side. You look and see what side one is. You put it on, you play it till the end, and then either me or whoever I have over goes over and flips it over, and we listen to the second side. And when you listen to some of these classic albums and your friends are here and everybody knows the songs, they're singing the songs, it's another, like, it makes you believe again in the power of like the album format.
Yeah, I mean,
and there's a reason why some of these albums, like Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On," I was listening to the other day, from 1971, and people are still buying, like they're still reissuing it because there's a demand for it. People are still buying it, and people are still enjoying it. Like, I'm enjoying these albums that I've listened to countless times, all over again, in a new context.
Yeah, it's funny because we can't paint everybody with one brush. There are certainly a massive generation of younger people who appreciate albums in their format as well, and they're starting to discover things in ways that the generations before them didn't. I think it's kind of back and forth constantly. I mean, I meet kids in their young 20s who are telling me that I listened to this album and I listened to this album and this album was great, and then I'm surprised because I'm thinking like, oh, I thought nobody listened to albums anymore. So it kind of comes in and out of popularity or what's accessible.
For the most part, I mean, you can't paint everyone like that, of course, but I think the vast majority of people don't consume albums like they used to. They just they follow their favorite artists on Spotify. What's that?
What is that, Matt?
I just got this today. This is the new Traum Prince DJ Metatron album. I did this
nice
quadruple pack.
Oh wow.
Wow. Where is he from? He, like, there's a song that I play.
He's from near, I think, from Frankfurt, apparently. Somewhere near there.
Chris, do you know him?
No.
And
I was always wondering myself who that is, because he's
and this is
kind of keeps separate of everything else, and it's great music. Traum Prince.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's a song that Traum Prince did called "Only Love Can Set You Free" or something like that. I was at Joshua Tree 2 years ago, and we were super high on mushrooms. And we put it on, and we must have listened to it on a loop like 30 times. Like, we just didn't want it to end. Every time it ended, we would start it again. And I thought it was the mushrooms, but then I listened to it sober the next day, and then I kept listening to it. And then I started putting it into my sets. And to this day, it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music I've ever heard in my life.
Any one of our viewers maybe know more about Traumprinz than we do?
But do you think like talking about albums and like listening to something, you know, for a long period of time, do you feel like maybe people don't listen to DJ mixes as much anymore either?
No, I don't think so. I think more people listen to DJ mixes than they listen to actual individual tracks.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think people have get-togethers in their homes or after parties or whatever, and they put on a DJ mix and they rock out to it.
Yeah. There's especially Boiler Room on their TV or something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of Boiler Room, they just got a grant. What is it? The number 791,000.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations, Boiler Room.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
What?
And I mean, we've all done Boiler Room sessions here, right? We've all, but none of us have ever signed a contract. But none
of us have ever been paid, right?
I never got paid.
But they own. I guess they own your set or your recording.
They own your ass. Yeah.
Well, they did a deal with Apple Music, which the specifics are quite confusing. Where everybody involved gets a little slice of the little pie.
Do they pay the artist that the music was played in the DJ mix by any chance?
Yeah, they have an algorithm to identify the tracks that are played, and then they've done the licensing deals with all the labels, and all the artists involved and the labels get a little something, and the DJ gets a little something in the end. But
I'm still waiting for my check.
But I think this is the thing that they've been working on for a long time is trying to put DJ mixes into streams. So I guess all these companies like Apple Music or whether it's Spotify or Deezer are going to be even historically going through mixes from the early 90s to see if they can publish them. If they can find where all the music is, and if they own it, then they'll be able to monetize it. I'm sure that's going to happen. So who knows?
Are Boiler Room still doing anything now? I haven't been following them at all. I don't know.
No.
Like, are they doing any live streams? I would think right now would be their time.
Wouldn't be the point to have people around you while you do Boiler Room, and that's pretty impossible right now.
I guess maybe not so much.
But
I do Boiler Rooms every time. There's just no people around me.
Yeah.
You should call your show the Boiler Room.
Yeah. The alone Boiler Room.
The solo room.
I've never done Boiler Room myself, so
I thought at one point I should get myself some of these monikers, you know, that they're having in shops.
Yeah.
You know, and just place them around me.
Mannequins.
What if
mannequins.
Chris? What if we give you like life-size cutouts of all of us, and you put them right in front of you when you do your alone
with a machine going like this?
Yeah,
like the cat in the Chinese restaurants.
Or just put a bunch of those little air things that just like move around by itself. There's just like people are dancing in the room. Yeah, just like shadows with the lights on them.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, that would look fun.
Oh,
that sounds like fun.
Or like how they do in like baseball games right now. People pay to have their cardboard cutout of their faces in the crowd.
Wow.
Yeah, my wife wanted one for her birthday, and I didn't deliver. I didn't think she was serious. And then she's like, "Where's my cardboard cutout?" I was like, "Oh, damn."
It's kind of the same thing as buying a star in the sky. You know, there was once this company who sold a star in the sky. It's like, what? Like,
I bought some property on the moon.
Yeah, did you?
How can someone even claim they own a property on the moon?
Well, how can someone claim they own property here on Earth? I mean,
But still, the moon,
just selling land.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Very true.
They can't enforce it on the moon.
All I saw, the website popped up and it was like, buy this property for $5. I was like, dude, I own land on the moon, man. I bought that shit right away.
Hilarious.
Came
Who
with a
knows?
certificate and everything.
You know, maybe Ezra one day will be like, that was the best decision my father ever made.
Exactly.
He's got the prime property on the moon.
Has the property value gone up or down, or is it still $5?
But you know, I mean,
It's hard to find tenants.
you know, they're already planning on mining the moon for rare metals soon. So you
Did
never
COVID
know.
affect the property value?
My property might be sitting on top of a minefield. You know.
Yeah. You're gonna be like, no, yours is over here. It's not on the minefield. Did
I know the
specify
longitude and
exactly?
latitude of my
Oh, they
property.
did. Okay,
man.
okay. I was gonna say,
I
did
got
they
the longitude
specify?
and latitude. I know where I'm at.
That's too funny. I mean, even the star thing. Like, how do they even do that? Like, it's just they just point at any part in the sky and say that's yours.
Yeah.
For,
I want to know what that guy did with all that money though for the property he sold on the moon. I mean, imagine just starting a website and just being like, pick your spot on the moon, $10.
Literally.
That's his idea.
Wow. How much would it cost? $10?
It was $10, man.
That's crazy.
Man. How long ago was this?
This was like 2008 or something like that.
Wow.
I thought it was funny.
I wonder how many people he tricked into buying $10. I mean, it's for you it's $10. It's not a big deal, but it's like you add that to like maybe I don't know a few thousand, or it could be hundreds of thousands of people.
I'm pretty sure the site's gone by now too. The guy probably
sure?
just cashed in and took it out.
Do you remember the name of the site?
I don't, but I got the certificate though.
A certificate. Like that means anything.
I'm sure Starbucks both bought the most.
Starbucks owns the whole moon. They own all of the moon.
The first Starbucks on the moon.
Hey guys, pivoting back to music, just because it popped into my head. T99 Anastasia. So Chris and David remixed a classic.
Yeah.
What was it? Tell us a little bit about how that came about, and was that a song when it first came out that you guys were into and playing, or did you just do it because of how popular it was? And
well, I'll start because my story might be shorter. I don't know.
Okay, let's go with a shorter story.
I feel offended now.
No. I only say this because like that song came out like way before I was really partying or DJing, but it was one of those songs that for sure I remember growing up listening to, but before my party days. So when I was contacted to do the remix, like at first I was kind of not wanting to do it because I was like, this song has been sampled to death and just been redone. But the guy's like, no, this is
like remixing Dominator.
Dominator. Yeah. It was like they just sample the Juno synth and and this was an official remix. He's like, no, this is legit. It's official. It's not just like the fucking Hoover sound and that's all you're gonna use or whatever. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I told the guy, I was like, I'll do it, but I'm not gonna do just a big rave track. Like I just want to do something. I'm just gonna make a DJ tool. And if you're up for that, then I'm down to do it. So the guy's like, yeah, do whatever you want. So I was like, all right, cool. So I did exactly that. I made a DJ tool version because I figure when he told me the names of all the people remixing, I was like, everyone's probably gonna do some big rave anthem remix or something. So I was like, I want to be the complete opposite of that. And as long as you're accepting of that, then I'm totally down. And that's exactly what I did. I kept it in truncate fashion and just did a kind of a DJ tool. And I think, I like the way it came out. And I heard Chris's is also great too.
Thank you.
Chris might have a better story behind it. That's why
did you guys no doubt Chris has a good story behind it. Did you guys do this during this, kind of pandemic situation, or had you done it prior and it's just coming out now?
No, this was he came to me like in August.
Yeah, it was like 2 months ago.
Yeah. And he was like, are you down? I was like, I said in the beginning that I'll give it a shot and let's see how it goes. And yeah.
I think of all the DJs or producers that remix that track, we're the only two because the promo came out today and I listened to everything else. I think we're the only two who didn't go for the main theme sound.
Yeah, yeah.
in the remix.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
what I knew. I knew everyone was going to do that. Everyone was going to get that
Yeah.
that riff
Which,
and just
which is not a
remix
bad
it
thing. I mean, that's
No.
probably what people expect. But
But
you
isn't
thought
that
the
what the
same way as
song
I thought.
is?
Like, let's go a different way.
Yeah.
But the song is just about that, right?
That's like the whole thing. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but
So
there's
you
a
guys
bunch of.
avoided that.
No, I didn't. Like in my case, I didn't avoid this. You didn't totally avoid it either, right? You
No.
have little sample bits in there.
I put the hints in there, but it's not like the whole track is not based around that.
No.
Yeah.
But it's cool that they gave us. They basically recreated the whole track in Ableton and gave us. I have the whole session of the track in Ableton.
Wow.
Yeah, from beginning
What
to end.
you got that?
Oh, you didn't?
No.
I have literally.
The story's better.
I have the whole Ableton session with all the MIDI parts and everything, and it's the whole song recreated all separate.
Seriously?
Yeah, so that's how I was able to take bits out that I liked.
Huh.
Yeah, I thought
I only got the samples, but I mean they had all the samples, but I only got the samples, but without the without kind of the melody, the main melody, like no, I mean the pad melody in the background, it wasn't there,
Yeah.
so I had to recreate it.
No, I had everything.
I guess I got to go listen to this remix.
Oh, good to know.
Chris put a link in the group to.
Yeah,
I'll
put
check
a
it out.
link in the group for the promos.
No,
it was an exciting thing to do. Because when I started with techno, that was kind of like the first techno stuff that I came across. You guys remember James Brown is Dead?
Yeah,
Of course.
I'll always remember when that 12 came out on XL, and I mean, and then they had this XL. Was it Chapter 1? This compilation as well with all these tracks on it, all these Belgian.
Quadrophonia was big back in the days.
Quadrophonia, yeah. And you know what's crazy is when you think about like T99 was on XL as well, but XL evolved and XL have released Tom York, Adele,
Prodigy, everything, yeah.
And but it's always been Richard Russell. He's always been kind of at the forefront of the label, and it's really interesting that label is still around, but it represents musically something completely different than its heyday. You know.
It was. But do you guys remember that track? Who is Elvis?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Who is Elvis?
Yeah,
that's
because you know, it was beginning of the 90s, and it was when techno started to become a little bit more commercial, and it was really the attitude was really, I mean, if you look at the titles like Who is Elvis or James Brown is Dead, it was essentially a message towards the old times. Fuck you, you know?
Yeah.
We're gonna go a new way here. Like, who the fuck is Elvis? James Brown is dead. We're gonna just totally do it different. And
what's his name? Benny, our friend Benny, did an amazing. I think he did 2 versions of James Brown is Dead that are amazing.
Benny who?
Oh yeah, he
Rodriguez.
did. Benny Rodriguez. He did.
Benny Rodriguez did. Oh, great. Oh, but I totally recommend you guys who are watching to check out Who is Elvis, because it was the first release on a label called No Respect Records in '91, and it's a label, and its label is still existing today, and it's the label by Ramon Zenker, and you guys all know Ramon Zenker. He's part of Heartfloor. You know, Heartfloor was huge in the 90s with like the acid stuff. Ramon Zenker, his biggest hit was Bellini. He was like, Ramon is this insane, great producer who can still do like anything. He had a #1 hit in Germany with like Bellini, you know, it's like, da, 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 da. It's like this carnival song. But he released in '91 the track Who is Elvis? And honestly, go online, find Who is Elvis on No Respect Records and listen to it now. It's like it could be released today. I was blown away when I checked it out by the sound of the kick drum, the sound of the hi-hat, the sound of the whole track, thinking that this was released in '91, and it's the tempo, I think, is also around 129 BPM or something like this. It sounds as it was released today. It's pretty mind-blowing. And I found when David told me, hey, these guys are interested in you remixing T99. Can I forward you your email? And I was like, of course. I was first a little intimidated, to be honest. Like, oh, this is like quite a big track to remix.
It's a big track, yeah.
But Chris, I wanted to ask you, Chris, with this kind of style of track. I mean, what do you think of all of the current trend of fast techno? like the resurgence is. Do you have a connection with it now? Are you feeling some of these new producers and these records that are referencing all this, you know, these tracks from the past, these 145, 150 BPM?
Bringing Schrantz back.
Schrantz.
Matt, do you mean Schrantz now, or do you mean like more the acid 140
more the
BPM?
acid techno, the stuff that's kind of like popular in Berlin, this kind of very fast techno, loopy techno, basically. That, and some of it, of course, is very commercial. Some of it sounds trancey, but I mean, do you like it, or?
Well, I think young people who just started to listen to electronic music are probably like really like, whoa, what is this? There's a lot of energy behind it. It's in a way pretty simple. You know, you have only certain amount of sounds going on. It's pretty full on. You have an acid line going on, and I get it. I get that. I totally get that. So I think there's a good reason for it to have it, but I also know it's going to be short lived, because just look back in the time. West Coast
because history
IPA
just
is dead.
History
How
just
cool
tends
is
to
this?
repeat
West Coast
itself.
IPA is dead.
Right?
James Brown is dead. That's almost the same title.
I just realized
it almost looks like the album cover of James Brown is dead.
Maybe they were fans and they just,
It was also a gravestone on there.
LA Style.
LA Style.
LA Style.
Why was it called LA Style? Does anybody
That was the
know
group who
story?
produced the track.
Right.
Oh,
Those are
but
the guys
why-
who produced the track.
Why LA Style? There was no.
I don't know. They weren't from LA either.
Yeah.
So
They were Dutch guys, right?
yeah.
Always cool.
If anybody knows that.
No, but getting back to Matt's question, I think I respect that people love it and that people jump to it, but I don't think. What are you eating there?
Yeah, what is that?
Gummy bears with THC
Sausage?
or mushrooms?
Looks like sausage.
No, I just
Edibles?
sometimes like, you know, don't you feel like eating something while you're drinking all this booze during the show?
Yes, all the
I
time.
just feel like drinking.
I'm gonna be the first to like start snacking while I'm drinking on DJs and Beers.
But
Chris,
Matt, to
Chris,
come back to your question.
But do you think, Chris, it's going to be short-lived? Because I see this has been going on for quite a few years. But again, the problem is I was never into this music in the 90s, and I feel like I can't get my head around it. Basically, I don't see I just don't see.
You didn't like 299 Anastasia, Matt?
I like that.
Dominator?
I like maybe Dominator, but I didn't like some of the fast, harder techno that became the norm.
I've even seen from what Matt's talking about, even just the harder techno sound of the early 2000s is certainly making its round back in, and it's also mixing in elements of early rave music and trance and hard acid trance and all this stuff, and it's like a mishmash because it seems like the younger generation didn't experience this music in the past, and it's all new to them, and it's like it's fresh and it's innovative, and well, it's not really, it's kind of just rehashed, but it's what's cool right now.
But to me, there's the other thing as well. I mean, when Berghain was open, I mean, this kind of music just doesn't sound good. Like for 10 hours, you just can't listen to, because it's so full. There's no space, and that's what was great about guys like Marcel or Ben or all these guys in the mid to late 2000s who were playing very open, wide, you know, soundscape.
Well, especially,
well, they're not complaining listening
like
to it for 10 hours. They seem to love it.
Yeah, but in a club like Berghain, like that sparse, more not necessarily minimal, but more stripped down music just sounded amazing in there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then now when you notice, you know, like, yeah, you see that, you hear that 140 BPM. Like, let's say if you hear DVS1 at Berghain, he plays the right 140 BPM. Exactly. He'll play 140 BPM, but stripped down stuff, and it sounds fucking amazing. Versus like you hear some full on 140 BPM in there, it's just like, it's like muddy and just doesn't sound very good.
Yeah.
But we were there to experience Berghain in like the mid 2000s, 2010s. I mean,
but
my first time was 2010.
I think age has a big factor in it, because I think when
I was literally gonna say that.
Yeah, I think when you're young and you're full of energy and something's new to you and you're fully immersed in it, you're not concerned about what sounds good in the club, and you're not what you're thinking about is whatever drug you took and how long you can go and how fast it can be played.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, dude,
but Mo, you're right.
When we were younger,
I was just going to say,
we used to go to gabber parties. I mean, what does that say?
Yeah.
But
That was
and also the thing is like with techno, or it was always about the future forward thinking music. The same as when people listened to rock and roll or punk. You know, when punk came about, it was like a revolt against everything. You know, it was just like fuck this. You know, we're going to do this. You know, and so I don't think this music is to me is completely very retro. That's why I'm not feeling it, because I want to hear new sound.
That's a good point. I mean, like I listened to the harder music like that back in the days. I was into it, and hearing it come back now, I feel like I've already been through that phase in my life, and I'm not really keen on revisiting it. Like I'm looking for something new personally. But like I said, it's this younger generation who has not experienced that stuff. And the funny thing is that I've said this time and time, and I'm sure all of you agree that like history just constantly repeats itself. It's just this cycle, you know, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're going through this hard techno stage and maybe the minimal stage is coming back.
It will.
I heard minimal is coming back.
You know, Ali, what do you say about that?
About minimal.
Ali, are you going to be the head of the new minimal movement then?
What I don't even feel like I was a part of the minimal scene when it was happening. I felt like when I came around with what I was doing, like my brand of techno, if you want to call it that, like I think minimal was kind of
already dying out.
And
that could be right.
I get tagged, you know, especially my early works, like as being a minimal artist, but I don't even know what minimal is anymore. Minimal just to me sounds like, I mean, I think we talked about it on the show before. It was like that era, minimal meant, you know, something that was kind of stripped down. It was very drum and bassy and super funky. It swung really, really hard.
Yeah, but Ali, who were the biggest minimal acts? Like, let's say around like 2005, 2006. What was it then?
Well, there was quite a bit of them. I mean, of course, the whole Minus camp was of course leading that kind of. You had Heartthrob and you know Magda and all those guys, and
I remember Panpot. Panpot used to be
Panpot
too. Panpot's super early work was crazy minimal, like really dark, spacey minimal.
Trenton and what was that label that Akifin was on?
It was the Canadian label.
What was it called, David?
Background music. That's like
really that's not what I'm thinking of. But yeah, anyways, I mean, it minimal definitely had its reign for sure, and techno had completely died, and all the guys that were doing the hard stuff just kind of went under. And it was funny when techno came back in the late 2000s, it was almost like, you know, like everybody just kind of picked up where it left off 8 or 9, 10 years earlier. It just like took off, you know. So these cycles keep constantly happening, and it's funny that we're just seeing the hard techno thing come back now.
Going back to T99's Anastasia, how do you guys feel about? I've always hated when an old song gets remixed by like 30 artists or something. I didn't count how many artists were involved in that remix package, but like for me, it's an immediate like I tune out, I turn off. Like if I see an old song remixed by 20 people, like I don't see the point. Like I don't know what the intention of that label was. Just find like 2 artists that you really are into, that are probably into that song, and ask them to do their interpretation and call it a day. Like, why do you need like 50 remixers?
You know, I think I think you have to make a difference. I agree to you in one part that if you release a track, you don't need 30 people to remix it. Let's pick out 2-3 people and they do their job, because in each individual. But I would say if you re-release one of those super old classics, you might want to get a range of 10 artists to remix it, to cover really all sorts of styles, to get the most out of that re-release of a classic. I think that there's.
But like when you get a promo, of a song that's got 30 remixers, like are you?
Well, 30 is a little too much, but let's say 10.
I mean, I instantly when I see those kinds of promos, you just get this overwhelming feeling of it's just another quantity over
Right?
quality
Yeah.
release.
I mean,
you just kind of bypass it instantly because it's just like next promo.
Yeah, but
Chris,
do you do
when-
the same? Do you do the same with such a classic? Actually,
the thing is, Chris, when you sent us that link, I actually went through all of them because I thought I'd have to hear exactly what people are doing, and
that's what I mean.
I was actually really surprised because that sample or that sound has been used so much recently in this sort of business techno sound, you know, where people are, I don't know. But anyway, and I was surprised that there wasn't a really super sort of minimal pounding techno version that sounded like Charlotte DeWitt or sounded like one of these acts. You know, they were very, I don't know, you know, David's one was like super fast tracky. Your one's, you know, this is techno-y one, but there's, I don't know, there wasn't one for me that like, I don't know, hit the spot.
Yeah, like the big rave,
room
like
one.
current. Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Maybe the Koyu one was a little bit on that vibe.
Yeah, and then Dave Clark's one was just weird.
Yeah, it was just broken beat. Yeah.
Dave Clark again. What's going on with you guys? Fucking Dave Clark again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At some
I have
point,
a feeling.
we should have him on the
feeling,
show just so we can roast it.
I have a feeling I mean, I don't know the exact intention of the whole remix package, but maybe the guy who put it together, it was more of a personal selection of remixers for him rather than just doing this big, massive remix.
It's, I think the thing is, it's always tricky as well when you revisit a track. It's the same with like Ali's remix of Grindhouse, you know, which was such a huge hit. When people try to revisit it or even go close to it, you're never really going to end up with the same results because it's sort of that remix kind of captured a spirit and a moment in time. And so you have to go in a completely opposite direction. And that's what, when we did the Black on Black remix competition, I was hoping that people would submit like maybe dubstep or like weird electronica versions, but people didn't. You know, that was the thing, because you can't make you can't recreate the same thing. You know, you need to. That's the whole point of remixing, right?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because when I did this production session here on Tuesday, I ended up to I before the show I sampled all those 22 loops on that record. And I told the people, for those who are going to stick with me until the end of the show, or whoever comes back at the show, but some effort is required, I'm going to post a link and you can download all these 22 loops and use them for your pleasure. But it's funny that you say that, because I mentioned, but don't do the same thing as it was, because the track is already there. So if you use this in your own track, do it completely different, because it has been done like this already. We don't need another version of this. Yeah. Do something completely different with it. Cut out little things, and I think that's a good approach.
But do you think,
when you
Chris,
go about those remixes?
Do you think that this is the problem? Like it's the same with like Instagram, or people having like filters makes people feel like they're a photographer, you know? And it's the same with a sample pack. You give them a sample pack and they feel like they're a producer. And this is, like you said, we need to tell people, you know, we're not looking for you to copy us or to do the same, because that's not going to get your foot in the door. We want to hear something that's completely different, that blows your mind, you know,
and which has some sort of new approach, and therefore has a sort of a new vibe and soul in it. And that's it's interesting, but because you said early on with all these old techno, like Schranz tracks and the faster techno, when that became really, really big, let's say in 2002, 2003, around that time, it became really huge. And I remember then going to the record store and more finding all that tracks that back in these days that DJ Rush and I was playing, by super young producers who basically were standing in front of us, listening to us, went home with that idea in their head and just put together the same kind of tracks and released them. When I was starting to listen to these tracks, I felt like there's something missing. There's like, it has all the elements, right? But somehow you feel like there's no point to it. The soul is missing. It's really hard to describe. And it's exactly what you're saying about like what the fast techno today. I listen to some stuff, and I mean, honestly, when it comes to Beatport, for example, and you have the peak time techno section, I can't even listen to this anymore. It's just like, what? Because I feel like, it's just put together. It's put together in order to reach the most amount of people, but on that way, somebody missed to put the soul in there somehow, and that's kind of how I feel about that, And this is what I've noticed 20 years ago too, when it got so big, because there were so many records sounding the same, but you would somehow something was missing in it, and I think that's the issue, and that's what we have to, tell people.
But the thing is, Chris, this is exactly why you, however many years it was 20 years ago, could do these loop records, because the whole point back then was you would DJ and you would create your sound, whether it was it was all about EQing, right? And the tracks on this peak time techno charts, it's all done for you. There is you don't have to do anything. Everything's there, So
are we sounding like an old bunch of guys complaining now?
The thing is like
that's exactly what we sound like. And this is going to be the next of my name. This is going to be the next of my next EP name right here. Goodness.
Confirm goodness. The thing is these kinds of
Dave's just trying to get free beer. Oh yeah.
These kinds of shortcuts in music and people presenting things with a lack of integrity and just cutting corners to sell. This stuff exists in almost every genre of music out there. This isn't something that just plagues dance music. It's just out there. And I think it's just up to us to just kind of weed through the mess, to just pick out the things that sing to us and ignore the shit that doesn't.
I'm really curious of how much more prevalent it is in other scenes, like let's say like in the house scene, or I don't know, drum and bass, or like we obviously know in the techno circle that it's such like a big deal, or maybe quote unquote a problem, even though for some people it's not. But I'm curious to know what it's like in other scenes, if it's as bad, or if it's the same, or it's not a big deal.
It's the same.
The same, probably.
I'll tell you this much from my personal knowledge of people that I know who make EDM stuff, like guys who are making like dubstep and just EDM. Most of it's all just sample library stuff, because they're just looking to make music fast.
Yeah,
it's a lot less about the art form of creating and producing electronic music, and it's more about just turning out a product and putting a product on a shelf in order to like push forward. So
sorry, getting back to music, we were at music all the time, I know, but getting back to the topic, what Matt mentioned before, Matt, because you have so much time in your studio now, and you said like you completely rediscover a lot of stuff maybe, and understand, like I said, I understand my stuff more. What's happening with you then? Are you making way more music than you've ever done before because you're a machine, or you're doing different kinds of music now?
I would say that I'm getting into a much faster workflow, because I think when I was touring,
even faster?
Well, no, because always when I was touring and traveling, I just found it was so disconnected, and so now I'm in this thing. It's good. It's fast, but I like it like that. I like to be able to make tracks maybe even in one day, and especially when it comes to dance music. I mean, say if you're making an album track, like you're talking for your album, Chris, then of course you need time. You need to reflect on what you're doing and digest the elements, and sort of, listen back and you can spend ages, fine tuning. But when it comes to making dance floor stuff, I feel that if I get it out in one session, then it's done, and I'm far happier if I come back 2 days later, because I know that I'll change everything. So so that's how it is.
Hey, Matt,
I'm actually going to move. I'm moving out of my home studio this week, so maybe next week on DJs and Beers, I'll be from Riverside Studios. We'll have to see.
Oh
wow!
Actually, Matt, how are you approaching making your dance music cuts now versus before, where you can kind of somewhat tested on a dance floor, or is it still the same
No,
way?
I mean, I think that's a great question, and I think that's a big problem because I mean, when I was making my early Radio Slave stuff in Brighton, I had an amazing studio in our loft in our house, and I used to get in my car and drive around Brighton and check out the tracks. That's how I tested them, and I would be pretty confident if they sounded good in the car, then that was it. But I totally, that's a good question because now I just don't know. I just haven't. I mean, I think last time I played in a very loud club was with Chris, where I heard loads of new music.
And it was not a loud club.
Well, it was. I think it was loud enough, but it was the first time I'd heard my music out in a club for like 6 months. So, yeah, and you need to hear it volume. You know, you need to hear what it sounds like.
This is why I built a club downstairs. But by the way, everybody who's watching right now, I'm such a nice person. I still had the link for all my Stigmata loops that I sampled. I just posted the link for downloading those loops.
Oh shit! I'm gonna grab them too.
On my Facebook page and on my YouTube page. So if you are listening, it's on my Facebook and YouTube page as a WeTransfer link.
And
you missed it.
I've got a question from Instagram from a cybercase.jpg. Have you ever had an extremely negative fan interaction?
Did you have what? Say again.
You follow her, Ali, on Instagram.
Did you have what interaction? What?
A negative fan interaction.
Yeah.
Like in person or just on the internet?
I don't know. This is what she's asking.
I'm assuming on person.
Yeah.
On the internet, I figure everyone's probably.
I mean, I had it in Melbourne once when I didn't play the Trent Moller remix, and this guy turned up and it was super pissed off, saying, you know, I met my wife here 2 years ago when you played this remix, and I wanted you to play it, and blah blah blah, and he was super pissed off. So,
but you said yourself you're not a jukebox, so
exactly.
I think we all have.
Yeah, certainly.
You can't. It's a ridiculous notion to think that every single person that we play for is going to feel as good about the set that we do, or like is going to be into everything that we play. It's like a ridiculous notion. Like everyone is wired differently. Someone is not going to like what you're playing. Yeah. There are people that are coming specifically to hear maybe Grindhouse or whatever you're known for, and you don't play it because you know you're trying to distance yourself maybe from your past work or create new experiences for yourself to keep yourself inspired. It's just bound to happen. It's just like part of the. I
mean, there's always someone in the front row going like this or this.
Yeah. Harder. I feel like that's the more common one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's common.
Yeah.
that's a new one, right?
The shoe.
No. You throw the shoe.
that's Spain, you know. I remember that in the let's say around like the beginning of the 2000s, maybe let's say 2005. You know, when Spain was super big with super fast music, and it got faster and faster, and my music got slower and slower, and there were people in front of me standing there like giving you the middle finger, doing like this.
Yeah.
And I've had that before.
This is the worst.
Yeah, it's like I was like, damn.
And holding up the shoe, and I was always like, why are they holding up their shoe? And somebody explained to me, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a Spanish person, that it means shoe is zapato in Spanish, right? Yeah. And zapato also means faster. Is that possible? So it was the sign of go faster, holding up the shoe. So you had the row of guys in front standing there holding the shoe and doing this in the other hand. Like, that's really inspiring when you're DJing. That's really motivating for you.
But I mean, look, everybody that goes out is under some weird, I mean, you know, there's sober people in nightclubs and festivals. There's people on all kinds of drugs or combinations of drugs. And some people have adverse reactions to certain drugs or combinations of drugs. and they want you to do what they want you to do right then and there. And when you don't do it, they get angry visibly, and it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Has anyone ever thrown anything at you guys? No, that's never happened to me. I'm just curious because I know it's happened to Jeff Mills.
I was there when it happened to Jeff Mills.
No,
Oh, really?
I remember Sven Väth telling me a story about playing in Adelaide, and we've always hated playing in Adelaide for well-known reasons. But somebody actually punched him in the face while he was playing.
Oh shit!
What?
Somebody came up and said something to him, and was really aggressive. And I don't know, what kind of words they exchanged, but obviously Sven was very, Sven is Sven. You don't tell Sven what to play. And the guy wanted to hear something or didn't like what Sven was playing, and Sven couldn't care less. And then the guy punched him in the face while he's DJing. And then I think the bouncers and Sven's people, whatever, they chased the guy, and he was just trying to incite something. He was with a bunch of buddies, and as soon as they found him and his buddies, they were like, all right, let's have it. Like let's rumble.
Yeah.
Damn.
So we'll have to have Sven on the show so he can tell us that story.
I've actually asked him. He didn't get back to me. Sven, if you're watching, you're welcome on the show.
I'm sure he's watching.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, should we get to some questions at all?
Sure.
I'm gonna get to my vaporizer now.
But you know what's funny? Like when we do this show, we always I've noticed when we chat beforehand, we're always kind of like, what do we talk about? And then we end up just we just end up rambling for fucking 2 hours without any topic, which is kind of, I like this actually.
Good.
It's kind of cool.
I'm getting a little bit uneasy because I really got to go to the bathroom. So we're going to take some questions. I'll be right back in just a second.
Just go, man. I already went twice.
Take the camera along.
Permission, Mo?
I'm just like, oh my God. How much longer is this?
Turn off the mic maybe when you do it.
All right.
Turn the mic off.
Oh man, I sent you guys that link of Jeffrey Toobin, the legal analyst from CNN.
Poor guy.
Who was caught masturbating on that Zoom call.
Yeah,
crazy,
dude.
Everyone is masturbating. I get that, yeah, but
well, why would you do it in front of your computer?
The point is, what I don't get: do you have to do it in the middle of the day between two Zoom calls? Like, how desperate are you?
Oh my God!
I mean, he's on CNN all day long, and probably in between CNN, he's on other networks and thinking, the guy's got no time to get that going. So. He's trying to kill two birds with one stone, So
wasn't there like some politician in Brazil that was just like kind of fondling some girl live on Zoom too? Did you guys hear about that?
No.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Find the link and send it.
Give a shit anymore. Yeah, I'll find it.
Do we have some questions here online? Hello. Do we have some questions? Anyone?
Load of questions.
I had one that I thought was kind of interesting. Maybe some of you guys can answer this. This guy said, he actually emailed it to me. This guy, Cosmic Explorer. He said, "What does established artist mean?"
Oh,
good question.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh, that would be something good to ask. What would you guys consider an established artist? Maybe these days.
Maybe someone who's been in the game for a long time, who's universally acknowledged as having made a certain contribution to their genre or the music scene, who carries with him or her some sort of a gravitas for maybe having been or being an elder statesman of the industry. Someone who's paid their dues, maybe.
That's what I was going to say.
Not just on
their dues.
Yeah, just on maybe someone who's, someone who people look up to, because I think we all value how we're perceived by our peers, by the people in the industry whose work we respect.
Would we consider ourselves as established artists?
I don't, but I think most people would.
I think you are.
Why would you not?
I don't know. I just feel like
you
I
are.
I feel like my personal opinion is like I feel like, well, no, maybe not so much, but I feel like when you're an established artist, maybe you're a bit more higher
Above
profile.
the rest?
But isn't established like having like a trademark? It's like when you start your thing, you become established. So I think with Truncate, with what you, David, you are established.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe
We're all established.
I think the question of it's just where does it start to be established? Like at one point, would the world consider established?
Yeah, because like if some new producer made a hit record, would they be considered an established artist?
I think
Probably
yeah,
not.
No, the thing is,
No?
I think one point which is important in the meaning of established is the matter of time. It's like it's got to be some years.
Exactly. That's
You gotta be
exactly
in the
what I was
game.
going to say. Yeah.
You know, it's got to be some years that you've been doing something.
Like Ali said, putting in your dues.
yeah.
But what
Time
is
the
that
biggest
on
factor.
the timeline? What does that mean? That could mean 6 months, a year,
And that's
10
exactly
years,
the point,
Years.
was it? It's 6 months, 6 years.
20 years.
20
Seems like-
years.
It
That's
seems like
established.
the dictionary technically says having been in existence for a long time and therefore recognized and generally accepted.
There you
Oh,
go.
wow.
Thank you, Mo.
Okay. Well, what's a long time?
20
Time
years.
is relative, isn't it?
Mo,
Who
can
gives a
you
shit,
Google
man?
long time?
Yeah. Time is relative. Time could be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I've heard and read like for someone who, no matter what career path they have, for them to truly become established, it literally takes them about 2 decades. You know, the first decade is like kind of building up to where you want to, whatever you want to aspire to be. And then the second decade is like killing it, you know.
But
Like
isn't that the old world, Ali? I mean, I think
Yeah, that is the old.
I think
The
the
old
things
world.
things have completely changed in the last even 5 years. And
But you know what? It's funny,
but
Ali.
we-
I
we-
remember when I first started DJing, somebody actually told me the exact same thing. It's going to
What?
take you about 20 years before you can.
Yeah.
That's funny. Who came up with that formula? Like, why 20 years?
No, it's
I
like,
don't
isn't
know why-
the same for like what is it like boxers or something? They say like if do you have to have so many fights under your belt in order to become somewhat like at least
I mean Dave, that's a great analogy, and maybe like surely you should have a number of gigs under your belt.
Yeah.
No, there is actually a certain
because
there is
it's
a certain rule.
experience. Yeah.
There's a certain rule. You can have to do something for 10,000 hours. in order
10,000. That's the one. That was 10,000 hours of
Yeah, like
training.
in
Chris,
order
if
to
you-
become a
if you wanna
master
be a
of
pilot.
something.
Yeah.
No, if
Or
if you want to be mastering something, may it be any craft like guitar, DJing, making sake wines, you have to do it for at least 10,000 hours, right?
I'm starting to think of all the
10,000
things I've
hours
done
of
for
DJing,
10,000
though.
hours.
Yeah,
I'm a
10,000
master of a
hours,
lot of things.
which kind of comes down to 10 years as well. So it's 10-year period where you have to do something
Yeah.
really
I think
regularly in order to become a master. And why would you want to become a master? Because you would know your craft so well that you do not have to think about anymore what you're doing. And because you're not thinking about anymore what you're doing, the creativity can limitlessly flow through you in a way.
Yeah, like look at airline pilots. They have to have a certain number of hours in the air. Like if you want to, skydivers, they have to have a certain number of hours notched up.
But they can't. They
it's the
can't
same
get
with
drunk
everything.
when they work, can they, Ali?
Yeah. And you don't want to have a pilot, and you don't want to have a pilot who's like, "Where was the brakes again?"
You don't want to have Ricardo Villalobos flying you across the Atlantic, do you?
A pilot shows up and goes, "Where's the keys?"
Only on his back.
No, but he's the pilot of the musical journey. So
Wow.
All right, getting back to the questions. Twin City Shredder, I think, asked a good question on Twitch. Where do you guys find inspiration when going through a lull?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Listen to Band of Gypsies.
That's one on the left up corner. Yes.
I
answered the question.
I've been trying to actually watch a movie while I make music, if that makes any sense.
Wow.
That's a technique that I've tried to do recently. I've tried to like actually write something that scores whatever I'm watching. So if I'm trying to go for a particular mood, like, I don't know, maybe I'll just pick Space Odyssey 2001 or something like that and just put it on silent and then just turn on my DAW and it being there in the background and just kind of write tracks that kind of fit the mood of what I'm watching.
That's such a cool idea.
Yes,
That's a new one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always like, I think, a holiday or getting away from just that thing of always being able to go into the studio and work. And that sometimes it's that nervous twitch. You need to, if you get away from that for a week, then that will cure it.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
If you're trying to make something funky, just go to YouTube and look up old Soul Train videos and just put that on silent and just start making some jams, man.
David?
I generally just from listening to other music and not just techno stuff. I tend to listen to a wide variety of shit, man, from jazz to funk to drum and bass. Lately, I've been listening to a lot of Autechre for some reason. Maybe because their new album just came out.
Yeah,
I listen to tons of Autechre, but even though there might not, if you listen to my music, you have no idea that I listen to Autechre, but still, just from their sound design, I just hear shit that I'm like, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah. Well, actually, it's funny because, you know, just recently, I think I sent you guys a link to this, but Eddie Van Halen just passed away, who was probably one of the most
Eddie.
One of the most extraordinary guitar players that ever
You guys
lived.
still hear me? Rest in
Yes.
peace, Eddie.
Rest
We
in
got to
peace.
cheers on him. Come on.
And
Hello,
the thing
Matt,
is
are you still with us?
Sorry,
cheers.
Cheers, guys.
When I was about like 3 or 4 years old, he was one of the first musicians that I've ever seen play live, probably on MTV or something, and just watching him play. I think that was the moment that like literally defined when that I wanted to do this for the rest of my life and actually make music. And as he passed away, I started going through his back catalog and listening to it. And I mean, of course, it's like very LA 80s hairspray rock music and early metal and stuff like that, but I noticed that the opening of the track 1984, one of their albums, which their big hit was Jump on it, was an Oberheim OBX synthesizer that Eddie Van Halen had written. And it was only like a 1.5 minute piece of music, but it was absolutely beautiful and it completely inspired me. So I took that track and I actually extended it to about 7-8 minutes and I rearranged it and recreated that song and just put it up as a tribute to him, which is funny because none of my techno fans or anything that listen to my music, they're just like, what a fucking Van Halen cover? That makes no sense, but it's actually an incredibly beautiful piece of music if people go back and listen to it. And I was incredibly inspired by just listening to that just this past week.
And
was it a hypoxia thing or a drum cell?
It was a hypoxia track, so it was very ambient, and I just kind of recreated it on the polysynths that I have here.
Yeah, didn't you send the link?
Yeah, I sent the link in the group, but I put it on my Bandcamp for free, so anybody can just go and just download it for free.
Sweet, go there.
What do you guys think of this Aphex Twin, the Novation, this setting? What do you guys think about enabling, like, it's basically this glitch setting on a base station? I mean, what do you guys, have you seen this thing?
No,
I saw a quick video. I don't know. I feel like it sounded just like kind of like a 303.
I mean, it's basically, it's a setting on this thing that basically it's a glitchy set. It's going back to this Autechre sound. It enables people to. It's a bit like a filter on Instagram. It gives people this sound. You know, it's I don't know. You guys obviously you haven't seen it, so maybe you need to check it out.
I know I've seen it. I've been quick to judge it as a marketing thing, but I have such a tremendous amount of respect for Aphex Twin that he must have had some good reason behind it. So
you're gonna buy one, Mo. You're gonna get.
No, I have no need for another hardware synth that I'll never use again. But it's pretty to look at.
Yeah.
Ali,
what?
Have you answered the question about the lull?
The lull. I think for me, it's always been about and oftentimes, I mean, it's about discovering new music, listening to old music, which is what I'm doing a lot now, but also watching like music documentaries. I find when I watch interviews with established artists, you know, who are around today or who've passed on, listening, you know, to them speak about their craft, passing on wisdom. I always feel inspired at the end of the documentary to do better, you know. And yeah, I mean, I've never, you know, thought about my legacy like I've accomplished this and this and this. I always feel like I have something to prove, and I have new territory to venture into, and new things to explore.
This goes to a good question someone asked me on my Facebook. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Snave or Snave Legrev. He said, when did you guys know, or when did you figure out you were doing something that mattered?
I'm still
when you get recognized.
I feel like I haven't figured out that out yet.
I think when you're recognized by your peers, when you're singled out, when your music is singled out, that, I mean, it's quite obvious. Like, you know, other DJs that you respect are playing your tracks. Maybe they're messaging you. It's a lot easier now. Like when we all started, we didn't have the internet. We have fax machines, you know. If you like somebody's work, you'd fax them.
That's crazy.
On the DJ feedback. And,
you guys had a literally fax DJ feedback, right? With the promos and stuff.
Dude, I would be up for 24 hours just like faxing in my DJ feedback, because I would want them to keep sending me the records.
That's crazy, man.
I used to have this. I used to have the Virgin the DJ promo chart, and it was like on this, you know, with the paper where it goes through, so you could keep, you know, you could get, if you wrote it once, you get like 10 copies, and then you could send it off. And you do that every week. Yeah. Old times.
But do you think it's mostly just with peers that your music matters, or how do you know from fans that your music matters?
No, I mean, you know, the thing is, I think all of us as artists have this tendency to have self-doubt in what we do. I mean, I guess I'll just speak for myself, because I know I do. And you're always constantly, I think what Ali said actually really rang to me, like you always feeling like you have something to prove, or you never really feel like you've accomplished something. You always have another wall to tackle, another place to go to. But sometimes you play a show and you can walk off the stage and like you might feel like, oh man, I wonder if anyone liked that. I don't know how I did. But then you see people come up to you and just genuinely give you this feeling like you have no clue how much that changed my night, or that meant so much to me. That was such an incredible experience. It's an incredibly rewarding feeling to have. I think for me, I think my ultimate goal with music, more than ever just being financially stable or anything like that, whenever I listened to music or watched performances when I was young, whenever you had that moment where the hairs would stand up on your arm and you would just feel like completely moved by a piece of music and inspired by it, that was a nearly orgasmic feeling that nothing else could really kind of recreate. And I think the only thing that I've ever really wanted to accomplish with my music is to be able to provide that for people in return, to just offer some sort of inspiration or offer somebody that same kind of feeling, to make their, you know, hairs on their arms stand up some way and move them in some specific way.
Yeah, do you feel like as we got older, we kind of got disconnected from that feeling a little bit, from DJing so many times?
No, not for me.
Not so much.
No. I think when it comes to the matter thing, I think I first felt it when I was playing in front of people who danced. That what I do matters, because it matters in that moment that these people are supposedly having a good time on the dance floor. But it also told me that you have a certain responsibility that comes with it. And it's exactly what Mo says. It's like you're trying to give them a really good time. And you're just like, they actually give you their time to listen to you, what you're doing. So it's should matter what you're doing there. You know, that's like, it should actually matter what you're doing.
I don't think
there.
a lot of people that come to hear us play, like in the clubs, all the sets that we do, you know, sometimes it's a festival and the crowd's really far away, and other times it's an intimate venue. But I'm always dialed into, like, I'm looking at the faces, and as I'm playing, I'm looking at the expressions on those faces. Are eyes closed? Is there a smile on that person's face? Like, are they lost in the music? And it's like, I don't think a lot of people realize that, you know, we're doing our thing. Obviously, we're you know, in the middle of all this technology, and we're trying to create this experience, and we're kind of immersed in our own little bubble in the DJ booth, but we're also really dialed into, like, how everyone is receiving our transmission, you know, and how they're visibly conveying that, you know.
Isn't that what makes a great DJ though, is the DJs that respect the crowd that they're playing to, and sort of can, I don't know, you can read a crowd, can't you? I mean, and if you're a great DJ, you can adapt and play, maybe, I don't know. I'm always like, there's so many one-trick pony DJs in our scene who can only play one set. But I think, you know, the great DJs are the ones that can adapt and say, well, look, maybe I need to go this way, or I need to go that way. And to be able to do that on the fly is also something that takes a long time, you know, to be able to do that and have,
and also having
music. I was going to say, also have the music, like, at your fingertips, you know. Sorry, Ali.
Yeah, no, I was going to say also, like, you know, feeling that sense of freedom, not knowing if they're going to go with you in whatever direction you want to go in, but like hoping they do, and trusting the crowd enough. Like, you know, I'm going to go a little this way. Let's see if you kind of come with me. And, you know, I'm not sure if it's going to work, but, you know, it's worth a try. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So you pivot back to the other direction. But it's all about, like, creating that synergy, you know, as cheesy as it sounds, between, we've all had those moments where, I have it all the time, where like, you're so in sync with the crowd that, like, you wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world but that, you know, but that place and that particular moment, playing that particular song and eliciting that kind of reaction. It's the greatest feeling in the world. And it's something DJs feel as much as, because I've been on the dance floor listening to my favorite DJ play something that really strikes a chord with me, and I know what that feeling is like from, you know, the other side. So I think we're all trying to always with our sets find those moments, and those moments make us feel like, you know, it's all worth it. It's all, like, all the sacrifices and everything, and the journey. It's all worth it.
It's like when you play a new record, whether it's your own or whether you've bought it, and you feel like the audience have already heard it. Have you had those moments where they feel it so much, and you're like, wow, you know, but you know that they've never heard this record before. But like, that's that synergy, that moment where
they're so locked into your set.
Yeah,
it just, like, everything makes sense to them, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But when you have DJs, like, let's say, for instance, Jeff Mills, for instance, he doesn't play to the crowd. He plays whatever the fuck he wants to play. But yet, like, the many times I've heard him play, maybe because it's just what I like that he plays, like, I'm always locked in regardless. Yeah. But a DJ like him, he's gonna play whatever the fuck he wants, and the people are there for that. Like, they're there for his journey, you know, versus a DJ that feels out the crowd.
Oh, he's definitely done it more than 10,000 hours.
Yeah, of course.
He's an established artist.
I think he's earned his established artist. Yeah.
I think there's something to be said about different kind of styles of DJs, though, and the ones who do it right. There are the ones, like, exactly what Matt's saying, who read the room well and can play to the room and just move the entire room. And there is this synergy, and that's magical. But then there are a certain class of DJs also who don't necessarily play to the room, but they play their heart out and their style and what they do. And they're providing music to people that they're not expecting. Yeah. And that can also move a crowd too. I think it just needs to be done well. And it needs to, you know, it needs to be honest and done with integrity.
But at what
Yeah.
point is integrity given up when you're playing to a room versus doing your thing?
When you put marketability before art, I guess.
Yeah.
When
When
you're
you play
playing,
Dahul.
But there's also integrity versus ego, and this is what I think one of the biggest problems in our industry is when people think they're great and maybe they're not. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Up and downs.
Yeah, we do
Guys,
sound like old men, do we?
Basmal on Twitch is a good question. What was your biggest, what was your biggest obstacle in your career?
I think myself.
Yeah.
It's exactly the answer.
We're our
I think,
own, like
the ego, your own ego. I
Yeah,
think. I mean,
I don't know if
how many decisions did you do because you felt like, oh, this is going to be making my career better? But is it making your music better? Is it making your craft better?
When
I don't
I
think it's ego.
Yeah.
It's like it's self-doubt.
Yeah.
It's like, am I good enough to do this, or am I up to the challenge?
Yeah, that's another part. Even.
Yeah.
But like a great artist will kind of push themselves over that ledge. I remember a great quote from David Bowie, where I can't remember what the context of the question was, but basically he said where he feels the most comfortable as an artist, as a creative, like he used the metaphor of like walking into a lake and walking out until like the water was just up to kind of below his lip. And right there, it's like at that point where like if you go a little further you'll drown, but you're kind of you're able still to function. Like it was a really great, you should find the interview for those watching and find it. It was really articulate the way he expressed it, and I've always felt that way.
I think for me growing up in London, definitely one of the biggest things was, of course, it was information, and was be able to know how you did things. None of my friends who were DJs, they didn't have agents, they didn't have managers. This was like no one had these people to help them, and so that was a huge obstacle as well. And also having people who would believe that this could even be a career choice, that you could be a DJ and make money from it, And so because it was still seen as this kind of like, it's nightlife, it's weird, it's not the norm, it's not like having a normal job. So of course, my parents weren't into it, but I think that was the same with everyone, so that's another factor,
Absolutely.
I guess now with the access of information so readily available, it's just so much. But do you think that now having this access of information and resources so easily available kind of somewhat hurts the growth of an artist? Do you think, or is it? Obviously, it makes it easier, but does that mean the artist is not? Damn, what's the word I'm trying to find? Like the artist is just not going through this kind of growing pains, whereas now they can just Google something or hit somebody up and then get all this information and help, versus trying to do this on their own like before.
I mean, like there's always been a fast track. These days, there's more options to people who want to fast track, and I think the fans, hopefully, they understand who's in it really genuinely for the love of it, and who's paying their dues and putting in the time, and who's just after the lifestyle.
Yeah, but which doesn't mean it's not necessarily a fast track. Somebody can rise really quickly, really fast, and is in it with his heart. It's just the right moment, the right song, the right something. But it's usually like this, and then it goes down like that. But
well, I mean, that
like this.
When that happens, the interesting thing is, okay, how long can that person sustain their art? It's totally fine if somebody, comes out with a hit out of nowhere, and maybe they don't have much of a backstory or whatever. But then what remains to be seen is how they follow that up, and how they follow up that, and how they keep going, and how and end up with a 10 or 20 year career.
And you could ask the questions like, what is your biggest success in your career? And when I was asked that, I was like, that I can still do that actually.
But
after so many years.
All of us sitting here, we were all DJs before we were artists, or is that correct?
Yeah,
what is the difference now between artists and DJs?
Yeah.
Well, no, because I mean, a lot of people might have just made music and then fallen into DJing rather than just being a DJ and then making music.
Well, it's funny. I made music before I DJ'd, but I wasn't making electronic music. I mean, I was in a band, so I was like playing punk.
Hey, who was a DJ before the producer?
For sure. DJing first.
3 to 2.
So I started a DJ, and then after DJing, started to produce electronic music. So
yeah,
I was into more like turntablist DJing before I got into like playing dance music and stuff like that. That's what I was into first. But I've realized that playing a techno set and doing turntablism, most people do not want to hear that shit. They're just like, whoa, the fuck are you doing?
First record.
I'd like to hear you do that, David.
I probably won't do it so well now, but I could do a little bit, but people don't care, man.
David's still good. He still cuts it up every once in a while when we're at the house. Book you.
It'd be cool to get A-Track on to talk about like turntablism. Yeah.
I'm actually good friends with Qbert. I could invite him.
Oh, Qbert.
I'm a big fan.
Qbert would be amazing to get on.
I don't know if he's familiar with all of us, but he's not really into dance.
No, but that's yeah.
It's all right. We just talk about DJing, and I remember his super
because like even when I was hanging out with him, he didn't even know what I did. He was like, "So like, what do you do exactly? Like, you play techno, like what they play at EDC?" And I'm like, "No, man, not that stuff." And
is he still doing his thing? Is he still like?
He's still got like a DJ school and everything, and I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of live streams and he's keeping it up. That's for sure.
Dude, I actually just the other day, I remember waking up like at, I don't know, 5 or 6 in the morning, like I normally do. And then like I go on Instagram and he was already live and he was scratching live on Instagram. And it was like 6 a.m.
Already or still?
No, I think already.
Up all night.
Scratch, David. Yeah.
Huh?
Sometimes you get the urge to scratch, and
damn, man, but just like he's like OG legit. He's established,
dude.
Like, that dude's been scratching for like 30 years or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he's definitely established, right?
Yeah.
And what he does matters.
He literally has about 9 different turntable setups throughout the house.
Wow.
Like there's literally a turntable and a mixer in the kitchen. There's one in his studio, one in his living room, one in his dining room. And it's usually just one turntable and a mixer.
And a mixer.
And he'll play like a beat just like off his iPod or his phone or whatever. And he just scratches over the tracks, walks around the house in different places, like cooking and scratching at the same time. I mean, dude lives.
Has he gotten into all the new technologies like the way A-Track has? Like if you watch A-Track use the timecode vinyl and the controllers from Native Instruments, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He has.
I mean, he made his own. Isn't he? Make this little crossfader that's like Bluetooth off iPad and shit.
Yeah, he did do that. There's a little keychain crossfader that you can put on your thing and Bluetooth it. But he also because he still has his record label and they still put out scratch records and beat juggling records. And he's actually made some where it's real like scratch. I mean, real audio on turntable and then a small portion of tractor time code. So that you could actually use it as a control record, like flip it over and use it with tractor as well. So.
I used to sample all of the visible scratch pickles, all of those records.
All
of those ones. They're amazing.
For me, for the best turntablist, I mean, he wasn't really a turntablist, but like his scratch style, people may find interesting that he was a major influence on me as an artist is DJ Premier. Like just the way he would bring things in and the way he would scratch a vocal or like a musical sample was second to none, I think.
Dude, DJ Premier just did a track where he was scratching on the new Run the Jewels album on a track called Ooh La La. That track is incredible. I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard Run the Jewels, but they, for me, have been probably one of the most inspiring modern day hip hop crews that are doing stuff right now. And it was funny just to see Premier come back on that music video. You should definitely check that. I'm gonna link you guys.
Premier's established. So
please send a link. Can you put a link in the chat and in our group?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great track.
But it's crazy how turntablism these days is just, granted, it's still a thing, but it's just not as widely maybe accepted as it used to be, you know, like in the 90s.
Yeah, that's right.
Like most people nowadays are just be like, why do you stop messing with the song, you know? Just let it play.
Annoyed. Yeah,
they get annoyed. And I'll never forget this one time at Berghain. I played after DJ Bone, and I showed up like maybe an hour and a half before I had to play. And DJ Bone was doing his thing, was cutting up the tracks, doing his tricks, and nobody in the crowd was amused. And I was sitting there watching him like, dude, this is so dope. And I'm like, just what a contrast of what I grew up with. Yeah. And what the people at Berghain are just like, just let the fucking song play. And I'm just like, this is amazing. I love this. I love the doubles. I love the cutting and the scratching. And I was like, this was amazing, but people were just not into it. I was like, damn, man, just a whole different generation.
He probably wasn't reading the room right.
Yeah. But that's also like
a perfect example, like we were talking about earlier. It's like he's doing his thing. He doesn't give a shit. It's like, fuck that. I'm doing.
But it could also be a cultural thing, because I think if he did that anywhere in the US, it would be widely like,
oh, totally, that's true,
widely like appreciated and accepted. Yeah, but maybe not so much in Germany. I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm Chris. And growing up in Europe in the 90s, were there any techno or electronic DJs that were known for being kind of turntablists that were famous?
Oh, definitely. Westbam is one of them. He actually, you know Westbam.
Yep.
You've heard of him?
Never seen him play, but
Westbam is
he's a super legendary man, you know. He's completely underrated these days, I would say. And he is started up as a turntablist. There are some. Definitely.
Okay, so but did people enjoy it? Like, well, okay, I guess in the 90s,
well,
it was a little bit different.
Yeah,
Not
but
really.
you're completely right. He was already back then kind of a little bit of a special person doing this scratching, and he did a lot with Afrika Bambata.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and also
that's a big deal.
Yeah, what was the other guy? There was another guy. I don't remember.
Anyone like Westbam was part of the Zulu Nation.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
And you know he did a lot of electro and a lot of stretching stuff, and that's where he kind of came from.
But I think that what you're talking about, the whole thing is definitely about mixing styles, and again, I mean, Justin and I were talking about it the other day, like, you know, it's the rotary versus faders. Some DJs, some crowds just want to hear people or DJs fading tracks into another tracks. Other crowds want this quick, fast scratching, mixing, you know, like in Detroit or Chicago, this Duke thing, very fast cutting. I mean, Ryan's a good friend, but it's very rarely that he will play more than like 3 minutes of each track. He's one of the best DJs at Panorama, but he flies through tracks. He just plays, like, well, you know, that's his style, and it's great.
That's a very Detroit style too in mixing, though.
Yeah, quick mixing.
Yeah.
Or in Ryan Elliott's case, Ann Arbor style, like that.
Yeah, but Ged Jansen is like Dixon. They're almost literally, they leave it to the last 30 seconds of each track and then gently fade it in. You know, it's like, you know, there's hardly anything going on.
What side are you on, Matt?
Huh?
What side are you on, Matt?
These days, I'm more the faders again. I used to be into rotaries, but now I'm more into techno, quick mixing again.
Quick mixing.
David's pretty keen to quick mixing as well.
I've always been a quick mix for sure. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like with I mean, maybe because of the style of music that I play, it's like if you hear more than 2 minutes of it, it already gets like uninteresting. So I need to change the track. But that's just the way. Maybe that's just my mentality.
I've always been DJ Pierre Wild Pitch style inspired, and I always loved that. Like long mixes, like 13 minutes on long tracks. That
but Chris, you have like 4 tracks layered at one time though. That's different.
Yeah. Or that guy Radio Slave. All these like 12 minutes long tracks that just go and drive, and you just mix them on top of something else for like 7 minutes. You know,
as my friend used to say, keep it boring.
And I'm very inspired by the way Chris plays and the way Jochen plays too. Just these incredibly long mixes and just multiple layers of music over an extended period of time and manipulating them kind of slowly. That's had a huge impact on the way I developed my entire style of playing music.
Oh, really? So we all got to thank DJ Pierre in the end, because I think
let's get him on the show.
We're going to get him on the show, definitely.
Yeah, we're trying.
But like, you know, if you're playing fucking Primate records and you're letting them play for 3 or 4 minutes, it's fucking boring. There was like, do you want to cut it out? But if you're playing a track that's building up to something, then you're building this tension, and the crowd's like, okay, what's gonna happen? But when you're just playing the tracky shit, you're not gonna let those play for 4 or 5 minutes. No way. You want to cut out of those.
The thing is, Dave, when I first started DJing, I used to buy every Strictly Rhythm. I used to buy 2 copies because I only wanted to play the bonus beats. And I was like, why can't they just make records that go on like this forever?
Yeah.
So that's what Primate did. They did this for like 8 minutes. just
as loopy ass tracks. And it actually makes me wonder, like, did the producers know they were doing this on purpose, or were they? I mean, did they know they were doing this, or were they doing this on purpose?
Yeah.
Well, I spoke to Pierre.
Tracks.
No,
I mean, Chris made Lock Grooves, so
yeah, right. But I spoke.
You don't let the Lock Groove play for 5 minutes, did you?
No, I don't. Of course I didn't. There's something needs to happen all the time. But do you mean the long tracks? Why they were done that way? Like what the reason was for them?
No. I mean, why? Like, let's say the Primate records, they were very loopy, and they were like 5-6 minutes.
Well, they just were made to put something on top of it. That's what they made for.
It's like, did they
three turntable kind of?
Yeah, 3 turntable thing, like bam, bam, bam. Got something.
It's also it's really difficult to do. I mean, Lock Grooves aren't easy to make, are they? They're not an easy thing. I mean, cutting.
I think they're easy to make for us. I don't think they're easy for the person cutting the record to get them right, because you probably waste a bunch of lacquers if you don't do it right.
Yeah.
I remember we did Lock Grooves on the first Droid records that we released, and I remember the guy who cut my record was just so pissed because he had just burned through so many acetates. He was like, "Fuck this, dude. We're not doing this again." I'm like, man. I mean, they were great.
When you have a guy like Ben Sims, for instance, he can go through 40 tracks in 1 hour, and it's just like amazing mixing, and like that's the way he plays. That's his style. Some DJs, you know, want to let the song play slow mixes and do these like really deep long grooves.
Yeah, I mean,
we should get Ben on the show, by the way, too, David. We should get Ben on the show, definitely.
I remember
I've already asked Ben. He's not very interested, unfortunately. No.
I remember Houghton did those Closer to the Edit Lock Groove records, and then he did like a mix CD for it shortly after too. I don't know. Like it was a great CD when it came out.
I think Rich will come on the show soon.
I've never met him.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Never met him.
Ali is still eating.
I mean, we're 2.5 hours in, guys.
I need to go another drink. Or are we going to close?
Are we going to keep going? I feel like, honestly, I swear, every time we do just us, the time goes way faster. It really does.
Well, nice to see you guys again. Really nice. I don't mind. All here.
I don't mind to keep going. I'm good.
I mean, we can keep, like, I have John Aquaviva's in town, so he's on his way over with another friend of mine. So we can
I'm gonna have to split soon because I got to go pick up my son. So I won't have much time to hang for long.
I'm good to chill for another 30 minutes.
This is how starved.
By the way, I can quickly mention, because are we still answering questions from people?
We should.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah. We should. Let's have a look. But there was one question about what Matt called masterclass. I don't know if you can call it masterclass, but whatever I did on Tuesday with Beatport Twitch, I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel tomorrow. So for those people who might have missed it and don't have anything better to do for 3 hours and 40 minutes, you can watch that. And on Tuesday, I'll be doing this again on Twitch, Beatport.
So what are you
It's a
doing
2 week
exactly,
event.
Chris? Are you?
That is a really good question, because I honestly, that's why we started the show, by the way. It's like I just tried to create a track.
So you're just live streaming yourself making a track.
I was probably talking way too much, because I think 40 minutes into the show, I realized I didn't even play a beat yet. And it was kind of weird because, normally we do this show online. So we talk to each other. We bounce off each other. You can lean back. Don't do anything, like scratch your and everything. And, it's fine. Or I do my DJ streams where I don't talk. I just play music all the time. So being alone, and that's why I wanted to ask, like, Mo has done something similar already, right? Like masterclass.
Yeah, I've been doing them on Saturdays at 12 noon every week.
Yeah, you're alone. Oh, yeah, right. That intimidated me a little bit because I knew you were doing this really, really well. And I knew that you were doing this on Saturday. And somebody in the chat wrote me on Sunday night when I did this, "Oh, did you see Drum Cell's masterclass on Saturday?" And then I read it and I was like, "Oh, probably should watch that." So I see how he does it,
Well, the thing is the first time I did it, I talked, but then I decided I didn't like that.
There's no one to talk to, and you just talk on yourself. So I talked for 40 minutes trying to tell the people what I'm doing instead of rather doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was following Kyle Geiger's kind of format.
How does
where
he do it? Really?
He does it every day. He streams every single day on his Twitch, and he just reads the comments and talks to people, like answers their questions. And I tried to do that the first time. I didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't my thing. I didn't just like to talk to a bunch of people chatting to me. So the last live streams that I did, I just literally opened up my DAW on my computer and just streamed me making music, and I didn't talk. People would just watch me make a track. So I just would start from nothing and build up to something, and 2 hours later have a general mix and then just export it. And then
you didn't comment it at all. You were just not saying I'm opening this plugin because it does this and that. I was constantly talking for 3 hours and 40 minutes, about every fucking step I was doing here. And I was kind of thinking, is that maybe too much talking about what I'm doing here? And I should just go with it, because I had half an hour I was jamming with my stuff, which was running.
Yeah. Chris, were you interacting with the people who were on?
Yeah. I was reading the comments and trying to answer everything.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the personality to do it, I think the fans appreciate you and the engagement, and they're more engaged when you're engaging with them. And I know that Kyle commented on me like, "Hey, you should probably talk more because, you get more people engaging with your stream and wanting to watch it."
Yeah, because if you don't talk, isn't it just another stream you're doing, like a DJ stream, just a live stream?
Sure, yeah. But I found that if people wanted to watch me make a track, which is just kind of a novel idea in general, I figured I can focus and be more creative if I'm not talking and I'm just writing music. And if people wanted an insight in what I do, then they're getting a more pure look into what I'm creating musically.
I get it.
Oh, do you know? I mean, this for me, I have to have complete silence to make music.
Yeah,
I need to be in an environment where I'm not interrupted, and I can just
absolutely.
I can really focus because I really need. It's just about having this peace of mind, just getting into it. And I'm not talking about getting in the zone or all this kind of shit. It's just about no interruptions to be able to do it.
I get it.
The other thing that I could add is that I definitely work better under pressure. Like if someone gives me a deadline, I don't actually start finishing the track until 3 days before the deadline comes. And I realize that even doing the live stream is a certain type of pressure to like constantly move forward. And I actually found that I was writing music faster, because usually when I'm writing tracks in my studio, I twiddle with a knob or a preset or a sound for fucking hours.
But Mo,
When people are watching you, it's like, dude, I'm finishing this. I'm going to build the sequence out. I'm going to draw this out. Here's a breakdown. Let's do the automation. Let's put a compressor on the master bus, all that stuff. And the pressure just helped me kind of move more swiftly.
But doesn't that come especially for like you, Mo, doesn't it come back to your schooling and your experience of in the studio, where you're under pressure because you're being paid by the hour to engineer or to perform, you're not just sitting there smoking a joint saying, yeah, let's make it.
Absolutely. I actually never really thought about that, but now that you brought it up, that makes complete sense. I think that it does spawn from that for sure.
But I think it's actually two different kind of approaches then, because this approach you're taking, you got to focus on what you're doing. You cannot really discuss stuff with people or explain what you're doing, because you're doing something from scratch, unprepared. And what I did on Monday, I felt like, you know what, I don't want to leave it up to the chances, whatever's happening when I'm doing this, let's prepare the patterns at least. Let's find the best samples already, so I'm not wasting people's time while I'm explaining what I'm doing, because I'm like half an hour trying to find the right sample or do something or load something up. So I thought the best way is, my approach was like, I can totally explain what I'm doing because I don't really need to think about finding something. I've already prepared the patterns on the 909. I've already got my samples here. I already had the patterns in the 303, kind of. I explained a little bit how to program it, and that's why I could talk above it. I think it's a two different approaches.
I think my approach was preparing people for failure. So maybe even people tuning in just to watch like a potential train wreck happen is kind of interesting. But I just start off with like, hey, if you want to come and watch me fail at making music live, here's a link. And but
that's really honest, because you fail usually. Like, we all sit in the studio and we come up with stupid shit, and it's such an intimate process actually. And you share this with the world out there, and you just like, you put yourself out there. I could miserably fail. Like in 1 or 2 hours, we could sit here and listen to a whole lot of garbage, and we got nowhere. And I'm going to turn off and say, sorry, guys, that's how it goes if you just have zero inspiration.
Well, I found that if you lower people's expectations of what to find when they come, when you actually do provide something good, then they're just pleasantly surprised. And you're just like, oh, okay, well, that worked out. But you know what? If I failed live while I'm streaming, then so be it. I mean, it's part of the process,
It's definitely part of the process.
What you consider failing could be someone going like, oh my God, that's how he does this and that's how he does that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll be lucky. I actually really enjoyed the last 3 tracks that I made when I was streaming, and I still haven't really.
You actually finished 3 tracks?
Well, I did 3 tracks live, and I think I shared a couple of them with you. I know I've sent a link.
Oh, those are all from Twitch.
Yeah.
So
shit, maybe you should do it more often.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. The pressure was working for me. It was just like, fuck, people are watching. I got to deliver, man. I got to do this.
But so what is a normal master classy approach to do this?
Well, I don't know who labeled it a master class. I'm not providing people.
That's Matt. What is it? What is a master
class?
I
didn't. I was just saying mentorship. I don't know. I mean,
I hate the term masterclass.
I still need to watch. I mean, can the viewers out there, can they rewatch what you were doing?
Me,
Chris? Yes, you.
Can
they go online and they view it now? So can we?
Well, I think Chris said he was going to upload it to YouTube, right?
Well, I wanted to publish it tomorrow, but why the hell not now? It's a quarter before midnight, right?
I wanted to say one of the things from working a lot with maybe engineers in the past in big studios, there's always that, scrabbling around, looking for wires, patching stuff in, that takes time that people don't realize. So maybe if they jump online with you, Chris, they expect you to, have everything there. I'm going to make a track. This is how it works. But in most studios, that's not how it works. In big studios, it takes time.
Yeah. I actually asked David like a week ago to sit down and record his DAW and make a track to put on the stream as well. He said he would do it. So let's see if he lives up to it and delivers, man. I want to watch you make a track, man.
I feel like the thing is I have like no confidence in people watching me make music, that people will probably get like bored or they'll be like,
Dude,
what the fuck is he doing?
Dude, I was nervous, man.
But that's my confidence level.
Yeah.
So you were doing this live on Twitch.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the thing is like when I was in high school, I had a lot of friends that used to make beats. Like it was like a small culture of kids that like when Fruity Loops and Rebirth and like Reason were first coming out on computers, they were making tracks, and it was almost like a video game to them. They just kind of sat down and made music like they were like playing video games, and people stream video games on Twitch. So I figured if I took that same approach and just like streamed my session as if I was playing a video game, then, you know, it's not as stressful or scary when you kind of change your perspective on it somehow.
Yeah.
So while you were talking, Mo, I was just sending everybody a link to my YouTube video from last Tuesday.
Perfect.
I'll put myself out there now.
The thing is, when I worked in the studio in the mid 90s, the best thing I could do as a DJ, I think back then, was learn how to use a drum machine, the step sequencer. And that, for me, learning at 808, that was it. Like if I learned that, then suddenly I could put on the turntable, I would put the Shining soundtrack on and sample sections and then just use the 808. And I think that's the kind of thing that is beneficial, you know, is learning how to use these machines.
You know, it's funny, Matt, because I'm talking about you in this masterclass. you call it that, because
Yeah.
I said, like, because there were a lot of people who were just interested in how do I get into making music.
Yeah.
And I think you've always had the very best approach. Just take some music you like and edit it. Start editing music, like take tracks and get, like I told the people, there's like Ableton Live, you can test for 90 minutes, for 90 days, totally for free, with everything functioning. Like just get some tracks in there that you like and start editing them. And I told the people that's how you started making music, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it was about doing edits of pop tracks. But then it was because I was lucky enough to start doing remixes. Then when you start getting into the stems and you start realizing how people made music, especially dissecting stems, then you can really get into it. But I mean, it's not rocket science, but the real art is maybe about learning sequences and how to sequence drums. I mean, a lot of people don't understand when you're even showing people how to DJ about rhythms and, you know, where the claps go, where the kicks go, what are hats, what are crashes, that kind of basic stuff, which we all take for granted, is what you need to know. If you can learn that, and you can learn how to sequence, you know, a drum machine like the 808 or something like that, then that's it. Away you go. And like you said, if you can then incorporate samples. And we were talking earlier about like hardcore, where all those hardcore records where they sampled old like movies, like horror movies. That was all it was. It was soundscapes, creating, you know, especially with drum and bass. But it was all about the rhythm section. It's the rhythm section, whether it's drum and bass, hip hop, techno, or whatever, and especially in the most minimalistic sense. That's what carries our music forward. It's about creating the perfect beat, you know, and then having those little things on top that, you know, that make it special, you know, that go pow, you know, make it that's the magic.
Yeah.
That's my masterclass.
But I feel like with the old like gabber and hardcore records, they were kind of the only like genre that really sampled like all the old horror movie or just movies in general versus like techno or anything like that.
DJ Paul, Power of the Force, sampling Star Wars.
Yeah. It's like Poltergeist and shit like that.
Yeah.
Why is Chris laughing so much?
Any more interesting questions? So boring.
David just texted in our WhatsApp group, Ali checked out.
I think there's a reason why we try to keep the show at 2 hours.
We're at almost 3 hours now.
I actually have to wrap it up. I got to go get my kid.
Yeah,
so.
go.
Yeah, I was waiting for the wrap up music.
We haven't done that yet. We haven't done the wrap up.
We don't have a closing song.
Maybe we
yet.
should
Wrap it up, B. Wrap it up.
B.
Please.
All right.
All right, man. I'll see you guys later. It's been fun.
maybe Mo and Ali can check out. We can, and Chris.
I have to go.
And I can.
Hey, David, I got to. How's about you just stay and do the stream alone?
Okay.
Yeah, guys, how about we just wrap it up now?
Yeah. Let's wrap it up.
I don't want to be the party pooper, but I think maybe we should.
I just been munching on popcorn. So
I know you just got your popcorn.
How many beers did David have today?
4.
I'm on the whiskey now, so it's
oh my God! So see, yeah.
Shit. You know you got to wrap it up when Matt jumps from the wine to the whiskey.
and the neighbors arrive. And so,
Oh my God, the neighbors are back.
yeah, exactly.
Fun.
Wow.
Well, guys.
Okay, guys.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah, let's wrap it up. We all wrap it up, Mo.
Do we have anyone next week?
Working on it. Work in progress.
Is
Well,
anybody?
It's gonna be the Halloween special. So I mean, if anyone
prepare for some makeup.
It's going to be David's birthday special.
Okay.
Why don't we ask everyone watching who they want to see on the Halloween special, who would represent in a techno kind of way the Halloween vibe.
Vibe. Yeah.
Okay. Answers on a postcard.
Let us know.
Send in your questions.
Sending your questions.
Cheers, guys.
All right, guys.
It was really good to see you all again. Really good to see you all again.
Session.
Half a bottle of sake in. Thank you very much.
Anything happening till next Thursday for you guys?
No, I mean, I've got a record coming out tomorrow, which you've been promoting, Chris, on the show.
Which is the track of the year.
Checks in the post. So
there's a Gene Richards Jr. EP coming out on my label Work Tracks,
which is amazing. It's
really amazing.
You guys both put it on your streams. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank
amazing.
you.
It's really
and I got a poker tournament tonight that I've got to join, and that's about the most special thing that I have to add to this. Virtual reality poker. Cheers.
Wow.
All right, guys. Good to see y'all. Take care, everybody.
Take care, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks
Peace.
for watching.
Bye.